welcome to the 51st episode of the Nerdom and Other Nonsense Anime Podcast. Today we're going to be talking about Spring 2018's 7th and 8th week of shows. As always, we include timestamps in the description of the YouTube video and the podcast feed if you only want to hear about one or two specific shows, since we spoil literally everything. My name is Bcom, and all this Hisone to Masotan has gone to my head, and I can't stop licking other people's dragons.
Oh, damn.
With me today are Kat and Leo.
Hey.
What's up, guys?
Oh, no. You ever get close to me with that tongue, with that noise, I'll just hit you.
You're so salty, Kat, just like the ocean.
Oh, God. Oh.
Well, you got like a very licky type dog, so you should be more used to this than anybody.
It's one thing for my dog to lick me. It's another thing for, Bcom to lick me. It's going to be a little different.
Control your dogs, Kat. That's all I'm saying. We'll get to that later.
I would almost pay good money to see what your facial reaction would be.
Oh, God.
Oh, God. The equivalent of licking other people is this 5-star iTunes review that we have from Brains the Trash Panda.
What a smooth transition. We got this on lock. We got this.
Jesus.
All right. So we got this wonderful review from Brains the Trash Panda. Do you like comedy? Do you like intelligent discourse? Then you will love the Nerdom and Other Nonsense podcast, with Bcom's voice bringing up memories of Barry White in your bedroom. What the fuck, Brains? Kat's silky voice laced with outrage, reminding you, again of memories in your bedroom. I don't know what for memories you're remembering with outrage. And Leo's voice reminding you of that one college roommate that burned a lot of incense.
What? I don't know.
Leo the pothead. You will love this commentary. If you want a fun show that discusses anime in an episodic analysis, this podcast is peerless in that regard. One of the first shows I listen to every week, and these guys have got a fun show. Check it out, y'all. Thank you, Brains.
Thank you, Brains.
You both got bedroom references, and I'm just like third. And it's like, it reminds me of my really high roommate from college. I'm like, wait.
You just don't have a sexy enough voice. You gotta make it a little more husky, Leo.
You both have me definitely trumped in the voice categories. You guys, I think, pretty much have just about any podcast I listen to killed with the voices.
Aww, that's sweet. All right.
So yeah, if you want to leave us a iTunes review, go ahead, go leave it on iTunes. We will read it and have fun with it, as we did with this one.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah.
Always.
And Bcom, you had a crisis, didn't you, this week?
I had a crisis this week, because my anime list was down, and it ruined my life. I realized that I didn't want to watch anime because my anime list was down, and if I watched the anime, I wouldn't be able to add it to my anime list. I watched the first episode of Agretsuko, and I was like, I can't add it to Mal. How will I know what date I started watching the show when I look back at it a million years from now?
Oh my god!
And I just realized the only reason I watch anime is to add it to my anime list and see the numbers go up.
You're terrible.
You couldn't jot it down on some good old pen and paper.
See, why don't you? Do you have a planner, Bcom? Do you keep yourself?
Look, I actually do have a backup Google spreadsheet, but it's not up to date, and that's why I was freaking out.
Jesus
useless. Christ!
I have a planner, and I've just started writing down the things I watch, and I write the episode number next to it, and it kind of is acting as my manual, my anime list, while this shit goes down. Although they still don't have the fucking app up. Time's a ticking, dudes. If another app came out right now and was this is the alternative to my anime list, I'd be fine, I'm gonna do that, because I'm sick and tired of it.
Yeah, my account is vastly outdated. I haven't updated it in years. It's bad.
It's so weird because they barely have said anything about what happened still.
And they haven't said anything about when they're gonna get the apps back up, if they're gonna get the apps back up, what the fuck is going on. I'm kind of pissed off at them, honestly.
Me too. Speaking of pissed off Mondays, we've got Golden Kamuy.
Oh, yeah.
Otherwise known as Golden Boners Kamuy.
Sexy Golden Kamuy.
Oh, boy.
I think we should call it Golden Kinky Kamuy. How about that? Because like there's so many
Kinky Kamuy,
people
okay.
in this show that have like weird kinks about death and shit. It's always about death too. Like the one dude gets turned on when he kills wolves. The other dude gets turned on when he thinks about people killing him.
This is
That's all
true.
I'm saying.
These are all true facts.
Yep.
Okay, so the episode 7, Complication, opens with Saichi. He's deadlocked in combat with Boner Man. Yes, that's what I'm going to call him from now on, because all he ever talks about is the boner he has for hunting Retar.
But if you call him
yeah.
Boner Man, then what are we going to call the other dude later who is also constantly has a boner?
So, well, when he has a boner, he has its glowing, like, golden rays of light. So he is golden
No,
boner
we should call
man,
him
or
Glowing Boner Man. Not
glowing boner man?
Yes, that sounds more
I
ridiculous.
like golden crotch, too, is also good,
Yes,
I feel
Golden
like, but
Crotch.
okay.
Glow. Yes, that's a good name.
Okay, so Genjuro has taken Asirpa hostage, so Saichi and Yoshitake have to surrender, and they're tied up. But Boner Dude doesn't realize that he just tied up a guy who's named Escape King, and they just, like, instantly escape, like, literally within 5 seconds of being tied up. So, as Tanigaki is carrying Asirpa away, he ignores her, like, warnings, and he runs straight into a deer trap and takes an arrow to the knee because he didn't play enough Skyrim growing up.
Oh, God. Except it wasn't me. But anyways.
And so Asirpa's like, I can treat it, but by treat it, she means like cut literally a huge chunk out of his leg to get to cut all the poisoned like muscle away.
Meat out of it, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So Boner Man still has an erection for killing Retar and explains to Asirpa that everyone in Japan shares in the sin of letting the wolves go extinct. So it's not his fault that he just wants to like hunt the last one to extinction. But yeah, in response, Asirpa's like, you're an asshole, and tries to like bite his ear off. But she fails to actually bite it all the way off. So, you know, she's no Mike Tyson, like Leo would say.
Yep, definitely. That's what she did. I saw it, and I was like, she pulled a Mike Tyson.
So Retar like arrives as like Asirpa's getting like tied up as bait, and he starts dodging back and forth as he runs at the guy, and he has got like Kuroko no Basuke lightning come out of his eyes as he's doing his like phantom drive towards this dude, and like he gets up to him because like he apparently he was like juking because he knew that like guns could shoot. I guess he's like a very aware and smart wolf, and yeah, he like bites onto the dude's arm, but the dude still has his like finger on the trigger of the rifle and is about to shoot Retar in the head. But luckily, a dark gray wolf who is Retar's wife shows up at like
is
the
he
last
really
second.
his wife? Do wolves get married? Did they have a ceremony, Bcom? I don't think they did.
I think that the wolf's name is Kokoro and Retar's name is Mitsuru. And they had a little ceremony.
Okay. How about Retar's? I don't want to say Retar's bitch. I don't know. His mate. His girl. I don't know.
Okay.
Well, they got a
yeah.
family, so.
Yeah, his family.
So
whatever.
Boner Man's erection lasted longer than 9 hours, and therefore he's dead now. So
I can't believe they didn't make his last words about something being erect. I felt like they should have. I felt like he should have been there and be like, at least my heart and my spirit will always be erect. That's like what I was expecting.
So yeah, like the Retar has a family of like 4 wolf children, and they were the ones he left Asirpa for that one night when they called to him.
He left to go get his bone on.
Yes, he had to go bone down. Asirpa decides she wants to save Genjuro, at least, so they carry him back to her village. And there they eat some deer stew and some raw salmon, and Asirpa can barely disguise the fact that she's like in love with miso now. Like she like connivingly asks Saichi if he has any more of that poop that to like put on their like stew and stuff. So that was funny. But eventually, they get to talking about the gold, and Tanigaki explains that Tsurumi was an intelligence officer, and he pieced together that there might be like more than 1,000 times the gold that the prisoners were told about, and like it's because they collected it from Hokkaido for 1,000,000 years or whatever. And Yoshitake asks what he even wants to do with the gold. And Tanigaki's like explaining that when their unit attacked Hill 203 in Manchuria, they were ordered to do so by their commander. And it was like basically a suicide run. And they lost like half of their entire army. And then their commander committed suicide in shame afterwards. But like the Japanese government still blamed the army for it,
which
like, they
I don't
refused
think
to give them medals.
Makes sense.
Yeah,
like that. I don't feel like that would ever happen in real life because I mean, isn't that a traditional thing that happens in ancient Japan where like they would have a military they would have a military defeat and then like the commander or whatever would kill themselves? Like, how are they blaming the army
takes
for
responsibility.
it? Yeah, that doesn't make sense. I don't know
if it's like a thing where they're like, oh, you all share the responsibility for this failure kind of thing. I don't know. Yeah, it seems weird though. Yeah. So yeah, they become outcasts, and Tsurumi plans to start a military dictatorship by building a weapons factory with the gold from Hokkaido. So yeah, then the final sequence involves this like pretty like anime style chase scene where Yoshitake he bumps into Ushiyama. He's like the box headed like forehead guy at the brothel in town, and then Ushiyama starts chasing him, like knocking over every obstacle in his way, whether it's like a person or like a huge pile of rocks or a horse.
He takes this horse and he like flips it over. You cannot flip over a horse. That's some bullshit.
Dude, he's so strong.
That's some nonsense.
The box in his forehead gives him the strength to kill horses.
Sure.
Oh boy.
But yeah, the episode ends in the middle of that chase. So yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, there's one scene at 11 minutes and 38 seconds where it's like they just borrowed like some Hinamatsuri faces. It just fucking made me crack up. I don't remember who it was. I just have a note now.
Faces.
Yeah, Hinamatsuri, like it's like it repeats its jokes and they're still just as fucking funny. So
I mean that's your opinion.
Oh, cat.
All right, so Leo, how was episode 8?
It was called Eyes of a Murderer. I don't think there was. Oh wait, there was a bunch of boners in this episode. This is
there's a bunch.
Boner number 2.
So many boners.
This is the boner episode.
Eyes of a Murderer with a Boner. So Hijikata had like split his group in two, and as one of them caused a distraction to lead the soldiers away from his true goal, which is robbing a bank, and more importantly, recovering like an old legendary katana of his that the bank had possession of for whatever reason.
Yeah, it's like real historical katana that the Shinsengumi guy used. So that was kind of cool. I kind of tried to look up data on it online, and fucking like Japanese mobile games kept coming up, like Token and like Grand Blue Fantasy, and I was like, I just want to know about the real sword, and I couldn't find it. It was ridiculous.
Oh my god, the internet. So Shira, she also paid one of the girls at the brothel to switch out a piece of clothing of Yoshiyama's so he could potentially, have Retar smell him and be able to track him down. Because, Retar is really good at that. But turns out Serpa won't lend him Retar, so he uses the Ainu dog that they have from Boner Guy to sniff out Ushiyama.
Well, but you leave out why he decides to do this, like behind their back, because doesn't he like try to take out this animal from a trap and it just like bites him in the head and gets away, and they just look at him as like more like less useful than the dog, and he's like, I'm gonna show them, I'm gonna be useful.
Yeah, he's just trying to show that he's useful by getting this guy. That's his basic meaning. But but he's like sneaking on him, and they capture him like really quickly, and then he kind of sort of agrees with Hijikata and his gang and to go after a man named Henman Kazuo. And I wasn't really sure why he started his working with them.
Last name was Kazuo. That's a really bad coincidence.
So appropriate, though.
Oh man, I mean, is it though? This is like glowy boner guy. I don't really think Kazuo is a glowy boner guy.
Well, he has a lot of boner stories. But anyways, it turns out Henmi is actually like killing people, and Tarashi suggests to Sugimoto that they go after him next. They go to the coast where he's likely hiding out, and like Asurpa's uncle is there. They're like there fishing for the whales and whatnot, and they just end up getting like roped into helping. And like one guy gets thrown overboard, and they end up saving him from the freezing waters. It's obviously Henmi. And Saichi is immediately suspicious of the guy, so that's good. And then it's just basically a bunch of random scenes that happen with Henmi getting boners because Saichi has killed like him, and Saichi is just getting more suspicious of this dude because the dude, he just keeps thinking, he's like, oh, he's probably gonna come after me.
Well, you left out the whole. They even get into his weird like snuff kink and why he has it, and it's like they spend a lot of time on it for some reason.
In his head, yeah. All you need to know is this dude's really fucked up, and murder gives him boners. That's what it boils down to.
That his brother like was killed by a boar while he watched, and he got like weirdly turned on watching it, and so now he just wants to die. Like he has a weird snuff fantasy of himself dying by somebody.
I don't think this guy's gonna be around long enough to be of any importance. So.
Yeah, so he basically just keeps getting boners, like imagining like Saichi killing him, basically.
Yeah.
Yep.
He's like, oh, he looks like he's strong. He could whoop me. Like he could. I'm like, okay, dude.
It's just so crazy that we went from one fucking boner guy to the next boner guy, like immediately. I was just like, what? What is this show doing right now?
Plus, I love the weird effect where they just make his whole crotch like light up like a beam. Like,
oh, it's so good.
It's so weird.
But besides that, like I noticed some like I felt like a little bit of drop in like some of the animation quality these couple episodes, like not like bad CGI like we had early in the series, but just like badly drawn faces a couple times I saw. Like I was like, I mean, a lot of shows are going through this right now. It's like it's not just Golden Kamuy. Like it's always like mid to late season, like they're rushing to get stuff out. Yeah. But like I noticed it. It was too bad. But I did like that one shot where they're out on the water and you see like the huge whale underneath the water, underneath their little boats.
Oh yeah, that was cool.
That's pretty cool. Mm-hmm. That was awesome.
It was kind of cool how I was like dragging him along and Asurpa's just like flapping in the breeze, holding on.
Yeah. Also, I was getting annoyed by how often they keep saying hina like all the time now. Like whenever they eat something or like I don't know, they just kept saying hina, and I was like, okay, we get it. These are not the only two Ainu words that exist. Like, come on.
Yes, but we do know they mean delicious. So
they do. That's true. Anything else on this before we move on?
That is it.
Nah, I think we're good.
All right.
I feel like this next show was a mistake to pick up.
I don't. What?
There are way too many fucking characters.
All right.
Way too many characters.
Take that back, you little asshole. You cannot say that about Legend of the Galactic Heroes.
Cat, don't get me wrong. I like this show. I just think reviewing it was maybe a mistake.
It's okay. A lot of the characters are just kind of there for flavor at the moment. Like,
okay,
you know, like there's a lot of characters that are like we will be focusing on as it goes forward, but there's a lot of characters that just like show up and like they're not that important. I don't even know why they like all these characters get names at times. Like, yeah. So I can see why Leo's like overwhelmed.
It's like any epic star like adventure. There's always a lot of characters.
Yeah.
How about we tell them what we're talking about?
Oh yeah,
it's Star Wars: A Solo Story.
It's Japanese Star Wars, y'all.
Galactic Heroes: The New Thesis. Our new addition to the cast. All right, so Kat, we were gonna just like wing this brief synopsis of episodes 1 through 6.
This is gonna be interesting. Okay.
So, yeah, let me just do this very basics and then you can add. Okay, so like, we have the Empire and then we have like the Free Planets Alliance. These are the two like warring factions. They're on like two separate sides of the galaxy, which are connected by this one corridor called the Iserlohn Corridor that they're constantly fighting over, basically. The Free Planets Alliance like split off from the Imperials like 200 something years ago, when like the Imperials kind of became fascists
Well,
basically.
okay, so originally it was one just like community, and then the Galactic Empire was born out of like this one fascist guy who was like, you know what would be great if I was emperor of everything that exists in the galaxy. And so then
his name is like Rudolph II or something.
And then, so then about 200 years after that happened, and so the empire had been going for 200 years, like a bunch of rebels in this far off slave colony were kind of like, you know what, like we could probably escape. We're really far away from like the main part of the empire. So they do escape, and then over time they create their own kind of country, and they call it like the Alliance of Free Planets.
Right.
Yeah. So.
And they're clearly, the show is portraying them as the good guys, pretty much.
Yeah, so that's one thing I didn't like. So the original, it's kind of more balanced, where neither of them are shown as like the good guys. They're both kind of seen as equally bad, and there are good and bad things about both of them. Whereas this seems to be more clearly being like, these are the bad guys and these are the good guys, which I don't know if I really like. I think I liked it better before.
I think that may switch a little bit towards the end of the season if they go where I think they're going to go, though. But yeah. For right now, I totally agree.
Yeah.
And so, there's key players on each side, right? So on the Imperial side, the key player, like the main character, basically is Reinhard von Lohengram, who is this... He was kind of like from a lower nobility family, and then his sister was like basically the... is it the king? No, it's not the king. God, it's the emperor.
Yeah. Well, okay. So his sister. Imagine this: like a 60-year-old man.
Dude, her eyebrows.
Yeah.
Fucking kill me. They're
but imagine a 60-year-old man, right? And he sees a 15-year-old girl, and he's like, "That girl's fucking hot. You know what I should do? I should go to her family and force them to make her my concubine."
Yep.
Because that's when she goes to the capital, when she's 15.
Yes. And they were also like, they had just moved to like near the capital, I guess, because like they moved next door to this kid named Siegfried Kircheis, who's got red hair and he's really gorgeous.
Yeah.
At least when he grows up. And so Reinhard meets him, and they are both friends with like Reinhard's sister. And then like, so this happens to Reinhard's sister. She's taken away, and basically Reinhard swears that like he's going to amass enough power that he will be able to take his sister back from the emperor. Basically.
Yeah. And
I don't know if this is righteous or just like a whole new level of like sister complex.
I don't know.
Like,
it is interesting to me because he doesn't marry her, and like he doesn't marry any of his concubines, and it makes me almost wonder, because like he had a wife and then his wife died. It makes me wonder if he's just waiting for one of these bitches to get pregnant and then he'll marry one of them. But like he's in his like 70s now, so I don't know. He's probably not gonna have a kid. I don't know.
So yeah, but like the friendship between like Reinhard and Kircheis, that's like one of the key like elements of like the Imperial side. And there's some other side characters, but I figured like we'll get into them as we do synopses.
And it's interesting because Kircheis, like he likes Reinhardt, but really who I think he likes more than anyone is the sister, and he's really more like in love with the sister, and he's like, well, I like Reinhardt too, I guess. Like
yeah,
I don't know.
But you're right, and the sister like kind of asks Kircheis to like take care of Reinhard, so he's taken that to heart as well. But yeah, on the other side there is a brilliant commander named Yang Wen Li, who is like at the start of the series like kind of like underneath like some other commanders who are not the best strategists and who make some bad decisions, which leave Wen Li in command. And so he is able to take over and like miraculously escape from like a terrible situation against the Imperial fleet. And he becomes a hero because of that when he gets back home.
Well, he kind of already was a hero because he had like a previous thing where he helped a bunch of people on a planet called El Facil also escape from another bad decision. So that's kind of his MO. He like comes in, he's like, well, you fucked up again, let me play cleanup. That's his job.
In this show, if you're a leader and you're arrogant, you're probably going to die this episode or next episode. Every single one of them dies.
And there are a lot of old like arrogant leaders in these fleets. Like, yeah. And they get like millions and millions of people killed because of it. So yeah. Yang Wenli also has like adopted like a kid, basically, Julian Mintz, who kind of becomes like his assistant. But yeah, that's kind of an interesting thing. And in this version, they kind of like go into that a lot more in depth than they did in the original OVAs.
Because in the original, they really didn't go into it. And then when I read the books, I was like, oh, that makes sense. But it's also kind of fucked up if you think about it, where they're just perpetuating like the next generation of war orphans also going into the military, basically.
So yeah, where we are now in the series is basically Wenli, after he came home from that big battle where he sort of became famous, or more famous, he was now sent. He wanted to quit the military, basically. Like, he doesn't really believe in the war. He wants to find a way to find peace, but he's like forced back into it, basically.
Well, because he's
they
really
sent him on a mission.
He's really a smart dude, but like he never really wanted to be in the military. The only reason he went into the military is because he couldn't find another college where he could study history for free. So
yeah, it was just like his class status like kept him from getting an education, basically. So this is the only way to do it. And so yeah, he's been sent on a mission to Iserlohn Fortress, which is like the imperial owned basically planet that is in the center of the corridor that connects like the two regions of space together and that they constantly fight over. And so he's told, like, if you can take over this corridor, like, you will have enough notoriety that this like crazy like Free Planets Alliance leader named Trunicht will have to like not like recognize like you're an okay guy, or like he won't be able to like attack you because there's a episode where he's attacked for standing up against this guy, this politician, for his best friend from the academies who died in the battle in the beginning, his girlfriend or wife, Jessica Edwards, I think wife.
Fiance, yeah.
Oh, fiance. So yeah, Jessica Edwards, she came to this big like rally and spoke out against the leader, like Trunicht, because he never puts his own family or like well-being on the line, yet he like advocates for a bunch of soldiers to go fight to the death like far away. And so they didn't like that, so he sent like his like secret police after her, and Yang Wenli like saved her, basically.
Well, it was less about that and more about the fact that like he wouldn't stand up with everyone else when he at his speech. Like,
that was like a big difference with this series as opposed to the original as well. Like that, they made that like a way bigger deal.
Well, because that's what it actually was in the book. Like, so parts of the series are following the books more clearly, which I kind of like. But then sometimes they take license too. Yeah, that's from the books, and that's what happened in the original book. Which he refused to stand up, and then the other military people were like, "How dare you!" And later he gets attacked. So.
All right, so I think that kind of catches us up. So if you want to take it away with episode 7.
Yeah, so
oh boy.
Basically they want to take this like kind of like infantry area, like little unit called the Rosenritters, which is basically made up of people who have deserted from the Galactic Empire and gone to the Free Planets Alliance. They've almost like made a foreign military unit for them. And
French Foreign Legion or something.
So Yang Wenli kind of gets this idea. He's like, we could use these people because they look like they are from the Galactic Empire and they have names and they've been there, so they know how to act. We can use them to infiltrate the Iserlohn Fortress. So he goes to the captain, whose name is Schongkopf. It's very German. I'm going to try my best. And he's like, hey, this is what I want to do. It's like this crazy espionage mission Yang kind of cooks up. And he's kind of like, well, this is crazy and it'll probably fail. And he's like, you're right, it probably will. But like, it's the best I can come up with. And we got to do what we got to do. And he's like, all right, I guess I'll help you. So I really like the way that they angle this episode. It's much more interesting. They almost tell you the plan while you see it happening, which is interesting. So they basically go to the fortress, the Rosenritters do, in a old like empire ship that they have fixed up. And they say that they were on a espionage mission for the Empire to spy on the Free Planets Alliance, and they have crucial information and they need to get in. So they let them in, and like they say, and then you hear like the plan being explained, like once you're there, you need to get into the mission control area and basically take them hostage somehow, because you won't have weapons, because they won't let you have weapons. Like all you'll have is these cephal particles, which are kind of like an explosive. So they're trying their best to act like they're from the Empire. They manage it pretty well, except one of the guys is really suspicious. And they almost catch them. But then the guy in the higher position comes in and is like, hurry up, send them through. So they get through.
Yeah.
And the crucial part of this plan is there was a lot of worry that Shonkov would change sides, because a lot of people in that unit have like decided to defect back to the Galactic Imperial Army. And if he does that, like the whole thing is gonna go up in smoke, obviously. So all the while this is going on and they're infiltrating, like the people they're from the Planet Alliance waiting to see if it works out, or just like, oh god, is he gonna defect? And Yang's like, I mean, he probably won't defect. So after they're in the control room, Shonkov manages to get one of the officers' weapons and does hold them hostage. So they pull it off. And so then Yang and everyone is able to come inside the fortress, and they've taken the fortress. But there are two commanders of Iserloin Fortress. There's like a defense commander and an like offense commander. And the defense commander is the one that they have taken hostage. But there is another commander who is out in the field who's supposed to be like the offensive commander, and he has even more forces. So
guess what? He's arrogant as fuck.
So they call him back. So basically, like, they get word. They call him back and say there's been a revolt at the fortress and he needs to come back. Basically, trying to get him to come back so they can also capture him. He heads back, and when he finally gets there, he's like, "Oh shit! It's more than a revolt. Like, it's over." And they ask him to surrender, because they basically have this giant, all-powerful nuke that the fortress is equipped with, like, pointed at him. A reloadable nuke, by the way.
Yeah.
And he refuses, because he apparently would rather commit suicide than face the Empire after losing the fortress.
Let's be honest, it's a death ray.
Yeah.
Yeah, basically.
And then one of the commander's aides is like, well, fuck this. Like, I'm not going to die. And he escapes. His name is Overseen, and he'll be important later. So then Yang is kind of like, well, if we kill this main guy, all the other people are not going to die. Like, they're not crazy. So he decides to basically point the gun at his ship instead of continuing to fire and kill, like, millions of soldiers every time he fires it. And it manages to do that, and then the rest of them run away. And you can tell that Yang, like, doesn't like using the nuke, because basically he's becoming a mass murderer every time, because he's just wiping everyone out. But he deals with it. I don't know. And yeah, that's basically the end of this episode. They take the fortress. They win. You see a brief flash of Fazan at the very end. Like, and they'll become important later. They're almost like a neutral planet, but they're small.
Yeah, they're like a trade federation or something. Yeah.
Yeah. One thing I did notice is they really emphasize that they see the Galactic Empire, the show does, as the enemy almost in this one, because they have this scene with, like, one of the people has a tattoo, and they almost like emphasize it, like, oh, you would never be able to have this tattoo if you lived in the Empire. Like, and then yeah. I don't know. They add things that weren't even in the books, because I think they're trying to show, like, look how bad the Empire is, where that wasn't the case in the original. Also, I noticed some of the lines, like in the scene where Oberstein is trying to tell him, like, hey, this is a trap, like the aide to the offensive commander, and then leaves, like, those are directly from the book, like word for word, exactly what the book line is. And it was really weird and creepy for me hearing it in the anime. I was like, what is this? Like,
It's different from what you're used to, yeah.
yeah. But it was a good episode in my opinion. I like the way that they shot it. I think it was actually more superior than the original. Yeah.
I think it was in some ways. In some ways, I liked like the goofy action in the original with Shenkopf like getting into the control room, like. But this was definitely like better. I could, yeah. I don't know. I just like both for different reasons. I guess I don't know.
Yeah.
I also in the original, I felt that like Yang had better reasons to trust Shenkopf because there was that like scene where he saw him like stand up for like a woman in like a cafe, basically. And that's how he knew he was a good guy, basically. I don't know. They kind of cut that from this one.
They did kind of cut that, didn't they? Yeah.
Yeah. But that's okay. Like, we still got the point in the end, I feel like. So.
I don't really have much to say about it.
Yeah, maybe
so
more
far.
about the next episode. So episode 8 is the Castrop Rebellion, and after watching the original series, I was like kind of surprised that they adapted this because it was kind of a goofy episode, but at the same time, it showed off like Kircheis's like tactical ability a lot. So
yeah.
Maximilian von Kastrop is the ruler of the planet Kastrop, which is in the Kastrop star zone. And so he's an imperial guy basically, but he's kind of at odds with the empire right now. And that's because he came into a huge amount of money because his father was a corrupt minister of finance for the Kaiser who embezzled like a ton of money. And when he died, his crimes were discovered, and like the Empire ordered his son to like pay back the money that was stolen. But his son is like, no, I don't want to do that. So they send Reinhard decides to send Kircheis out to suppress this rebellion. And like, yeah, right off the bat, I thought this was like way more interesting. Like the original version had like Kastrop basically dressed like a Roman noble in a toga, drinking like wine and eating like grapes and stuff. It was very cliche. And it was not that this time around. It was more like normal noble like clothing. He looked kind of like the Count of Monte Cristo, if anything, more so than like a Roman emperor.
I did like that they got rid of the weird like Roman theme. Because that was really fucking weird in the original.
It was so out of place, right?
Yeah.
With everything else. Kircheis' appointment to put down this rebellion sparks a bunch of like rumors and gossip though, and double guessing by like the prime minister of state who is like second guessing Reinhardt, and like many of like their fellow officers are like wondering why they chose Kircheis instead of like Mittermeier or Royenthal or something, and even they are thinking about like why Reinhardt chose him. But they basically all come to the conclusion that it's like kind of a risky move by Reinhardt because Kircheis is his childhood friend, and so this like kind of smacks of like nepotism or favoritism. So if Kircheis fails, it's going to look really bad for Reinhard. But if he doesn't fail, he's going to like establish himself as like the number 2 guy in front of everybody else. So Kircheis' flagship is called the Barbarossa. It's like red, just like his hair, which is kind of funny. And like I kind of completely misjudged Kastrop at the beginning of this episode because he is sort of just exactly the same. As the fleet battle begins, he punches his officers in the face like every time they try to give him advice.
He punches his officers so many times that it almost becomes a little comedic. Because like every time they say something, either he's just like punch to the face, punch to the face. I'm like, what are you even doing? Like, aren't you tired? Like, because if you punch that many people in the face, eventually your arm is going to hurt a little bit. Like,
yeah.
I didn't think about it too much because I was like, well, he's going to die in a minute anyway, so.
So, like, it actually is very different from the original OVA episode, because in the original, the reason that Kastrop was so confident is that he had this, like, weapons system, this necklace of satellites that, like were in orbit around his planet, and that could shoot down, like, an entire fleet. They were so powerful. But in this one, he just has like a normal fleet, and he's very arrogant, and like he thinks he can take down Kircheis because he has a larger force. But Kircheis uses tactics basically to like maneuver his way, and like I kind of thought this was dumb. He basically just like flies his capital ship like right up to Kastrop's capital ship, which is like, it seems like that shouldn't be able to happen, but whatever, it does.
Yeah.
and like he offers like a deal. He tells like he opens comms to the enemy ship and is basically like, if you refuse and if you like turn over your leader, he's the only one like we will take into custody. Like we won't spill like a single drop of blood. And like, yeah, because the leader is such an asshole and all of his officers know it, they mutiny against him and take over the ship, and they surrender to Kircheis without even like barely a battle. Like the battle lasted 2 days, but there were like very minimal losses.
Yeah, I mean, so. in both versions of this anime at this point, they never actually go into what actually he did. I don't know, like he had this really elaborate plan where like he tricks Kastorov into because like Kastorov in the books has like taken over several planets around him, not only his own. And so he tricks him into thinking he's going to like liberate one of the planets that he has taken over, and he freaks out and like goes to confront him before he can do it, but he actually is going to the main planet. And then he freaks out again and is like, oh no, we have to go back to the planet. And he's able to pick off a lot of his forces while they're like trying to hurry between the planets that way.
So that's more interesting. Yeah.
Yeah. And
I feel like this was like a little bit rushed version of this. Like,
and then when they actually
crammed it into an entire episode.
Yeah. And then when they actually get back, then they have the whole thing with like the necklace and you know, all that. I feel like it doesn't show how smart Kircheis is, because like he is smart.
Right.
Like, I don't know.
Yeah, he's super smart. Yeah. Just not as smart as Reinhard, maybe, but like almost as smart as Reinhard.
Yeah.
So yeah, the after that, like, so of course he gets awarded a medal, and like the Kaiser awards him this medal and is like, thank you for your loyalty. But he thinks to himself, I'm really only loyal to Reinhard. But yeah, so after that, the Empire then receives the news that Iserlohn Fortress has fallen to the Free Planets Alliance. And Reinhard finds out that it was Yang Wen Li again, and he remembers him from the Battle of Astarte. And Oberstein, the staff officer from the previous episode, shows up, and he's seeking an audience with Reinhard because he's known he's a deserter, and he's basically going to be executed, but he wants to speak with Reinhard. And he basically really boldly like asks Reinhard if he can like remove Kircheis from the room. And it's basically setting up a power dynamic. Like he kind of wants to become like the devil on Reinhard's shoulder, while Kircheis is the angel. That's how he basically sees it. And so Kircheis leaves, and Oberstein tells him like, here, both of my eyes are artificial eyes. And under the former Kaiser, I would have been killed as an infant under this Inferior Genes Exclusion Act. And this is like all playing into Reinhard's sentiment, because he also hates the Emperor and the Golden Bomb dynasty that he created. And Oberstein is basically saying like, I want to bring them down too, and I will support you in overthrowing them. And like, Kircheis is a good guy, but like I will get my hands dirty, and you're going to need somebody who needs to get his hands dirty if you want to get to the goal that you're trying to reach, which is to become the Emperor or like just attain more power in general. So after all, Reinhard basically says like, okay, like I'll use this guy. So yeah, Reinhard's offered like a chief of staff position, because like all of the chiefs of staffs are like fired basically for losing Iserlohn. But he says that like only the admiral who was a terrible commander, was at fault for the failure. And he says like the chief shouldn't be held responsible for his actions. And this actually puts him in the good graces of all those chiefs of staff, surprisingly. And it also allows him to ask that Oberstein will be granted immunity for his desertion. And so that's how he gets him out of that. And yeah, so the current Kaiser is told that he might be giving too much power to Anne Rose's brother, Reinhard. But the Kaiser like just matter-of-factly states that like, well, then maybe the Golden Bomb dynasty is meant to fall anyway. He's kind of like really, just not happy about the current state of things anyway. He doesn't really love his family. We may find out more about that. We definitely do in the original series. So, but yeah, Reinhard explains to Kircheis that Oberstein will likely not be loyal, but he will like use him to the best of his ability. And if like Reinhard is incapable of controlling one man, how could he ever rule the entire galaxy? And like while he's talking about this, he's like playing with Kircheis' like Kuroko no Basuke hair. Which
that
is
was totally just in there for the Fujoshis, I feel like.
Yeah. I was going to ask you about that, Kat.
Yeah, like, no, because that's not a thing.
Yeah.
Like, but also like, okay,
Yeah.
have you noticed how the guys from the Imperial side are just 100% hotter than the guys from the Alliance side? Like, I don't know, when they all get together in that throne room or whatever, I feel like this should be an episode of something called like the Galactic Military Host Club or something, because there's just every color of hair and like every type of guy, like every hunk of beef that you could imagine, like in one room, basically, all in uniforms. And I'm just like, why are they all so hot in this version? This wasn't the case in the other one.
Well, you could be surprised. I did not notice this, okay?
I kind of noticed this. Like, I still think like Wen Li is good looking and Shankov is good looking.
Oh,
but,
yeah,
like,
Yang is my
the Imperial
man.
guys are definitely like
Like,
slick.
Yang for sure is my dude, but like just the congregation of all the hotness on the Galactic side, I don't really understand. I don't know.
Well, that's clearly why they're gonna win, Kat.
They're just
we'll
hotter.
See.
Yeah.
Anything else on that? I mean, like, yeah, I think we spent a bunch of time on this because it's like the first time we're talking about it.
Yeah.
So hopefully we did a decent job in like catching people up. But yeah, like I'm really enjoying this. I think it's like a really good version of like or adaptation. Like they've spent a lot of time like fleshing out stuff that they didn't go into in the original OVAs that might be in the books, and it's been really interesting to follow so far.
It definitely has been.
And also the ships are still like freaking awesome looking.
Yeah, the
are.
battles are even if they are short lived, they're still kind of neat. But yeah, I do really like the show too.
The animation of the battles
so much
is badass. Like if you like some battles, like some big scale, like, you should fucking watch this, even if you're on the fence about it. Just give it a shot. See what you think. So.
All right. So let's get into something a little less galactic in scale.
All right. We will do Yotsuiro Biyori. So this is episode 7, A Good Librarian Like a Good Shepherd. Okay, so the episode starts with 2 teenage girls in the summer talking about their summer homework. It's Kotsuru, I think, the tea maker's like daughter, I think it is, and her friend Gen.
Yeah.
Yeah, we learn early on that Gen is moving away, and Kotsuru is really upset about this because like Gen is her best friend. The episode cuts to Tsubaki trying to cool off in the restaurant because it's so fucking hot, which I totally feel him. I'm the same way. I hate going outside in the summer. He vows at one point to like never go outside until summer is over. And I'm like, I don't know, dude. Like, Kotsuru comes into the shop because she wants to learn how to make matcha ice cream from Tsubaki so she can teach her friend Gen, who thinks tea is bitter and doesn't like it. She wants to teach her that it's delicious. Also, it's kind of like a going away present, I guess. Tsubaki points out that some people just don't fucking like tea, but Kotsuru is insistent, so he agrees to teach her, and asks her to come back later so they can make it together, because he thinks that'll be easier than trying to instruct her how to do it. Everyone makes the matcha ice cream together except Sui, because, you know, he's like cursed to only make like the devil's own food that tastes like feed or something. I don't know.
Yep.
Okay, making ice cream from scratch is fucking hard and takes a long time from what I remember from when I've made ice cream from scratch. But like these bitches make it look like it's easy. I don't know. Like
they just like mix some shit in a bowl and then freeze
that's
it.
not the way it
Wait,
works.
Really?
Like, no, you have to turn this handle inside this like bucket that's like filled with ice on the outside and like salt for like hours. In my memory, that's how you make ice cream, and it sucks.
Yeah, I remember there being like an elaborate process. So maybe this tastes a bit different from actual ice cream. I don't know,
but it was way too fucking easy. Let's put it that way. Kotsuru goes to give the ice cream to Gen, who is going to meet her in the park, but Gen's train gets delayed. Tsubaki conveniently comes and picks up Kotsuru on his bike to help her get to Gen faster. And like, but how did he know? How did he know where to pick this bitch up? Like, Does he have a
think he would just
tracker on
park.
her? Like, I don't know. It just seems weird that he'd be like, oh, convenient. Kotsuru explains how Gen is a very outspoken person. And because of this, she's often left out in school and avoided. And you get flashback scenes of Tsubaki in school, and you learn like he was kind of the same way. And that makes a lot of sense to me based on his personality.
Yeah, that. I didn't really love the first half of this episode until they got to that part where they're like, oh, Gin is basically like a reflection of what Tsubaki was like as a kid.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, it's telling us more about Tsubaki as a person. So I was like, okay, that's slightly more meaningful to me now. All right.
Yeah. Plus, it's an excuse to show like matcha ice cream. And then it turns out Kotsuru misunderstood, and Gen is only moving a little ways away and will still be going to the same school and everything.
I totally called that.
Yeah, I was like, I mean,
I
it
was
was a little
surprised.
too.
Like I did not call that.
I was
but
like,
she-
she's not going very far.
Well, she was too casual when she mentions that she's moving. Like, it was like, oh yeah, I'm moving.
Yeah.
Like, so they eat
That's
the
a
ice.
good point.
Yeah, I mean, they eat the ice cream together. They're like, oh, it's good, oishi, and all of that bullshit. It's obvious Tsubaki really cared about like the whole thing in order to go out in the heat and pick her up. So he's not fooling anyone. He worries for a second in his own mind on the way back that maybe he's still the same as he was in high school, and maybe he doesn't have friends. But then Sweet calls him, and it's obvious like, oh yeah, I've got these dudes. Like, I'm good. In the second half of the episode, Tokitaka and Gure are picking veggies out in the garden, and Toki talks about how they grew so much like vegetable produce this year, even like a little too much, and they have like way too much, and he's gonna have to make that dish in order to get rid of the excess. And it's like this dramatic thing, and Gure's like, oh, that dish, and I'm like, all right, it's not state secrets, like I don't know what it is, but come on. Fucking tell us. It flashes to this retired guy who's obviously like become isolated in his home. He sees Rokuhodo in a magazine and decides to go for a change of pace. They're serving this veggie-rich curry, which is what they were talking about before. And oh my god, like I really want to try making something like this, although I don't think I can make exactly this because it's got lotus root in it, which you can't get here. I don't feel like. It's got, which is delicious though. It's got lotus root.
It's great.
Zucchini, peppers, pumpkin, asparagus, eggplant, and that's all lightly like chunky and lightly fried into the curry. Mm-hmm. It looks so good. And then the sauce has like ground meat as well as diced up very finely tomatoes, carrots, and onion in it. And I was just like, oh my god, I need to fucking make this. Like,
number one, I'm laughing so hard because we both wrote down all of the ingredients of this curry.
Oh, I know.
Separately.
I know, because I was like, I need to write down everything in this because I like to cook, and I was like, this is both healthy and like looks delicious, and I need to write down all these ingredients.
And then I was like, I wonder if Leo would taste the tomatoes in this curry.
Oh, I know.
Or wonder if we could like
You're a
fool
fucking
him.
baby. You would never eat this. You'd be like, no, it's got tomatoes in it. No.
Well, there's only one ingredient in that whole dish that I like.
Oh my god, you're such a
that's-
little bitch about food. You need to get over
That's
some of
hamburger
Is it
that.
the ground meat, Leo?
It's the hamburger meat. Everything else I do not like. Maybe the
God.
peppers, depending on what kind they were.
You're gonna
Dude,
die when you're like 50 years
bored with these
old
taste
because
buds.
you
I can't
don't
help
eat
it.
any vegetables. Like, what are you gonna? No, you need to change your ways.
It would be nice, but I can't choke the food down, so
You
there's
can.
no way around it.
I guarantee if you set it in front of you and put your mind to it, you could eat it.
Man, you should try grilled asparagus because it's so good.
My friend's mom has made grilled asparagus, which was really good. I don't know what she did, how she did it. It didn't taste like fucking asparagus at that point. And she grills portobello mushrooms, which basically is like eating steak when she's done with it.
Yeah. Oh
So-
god, it's so good. Yeah.
Yeah. That's about my venture into vegetables outside of potatoes and
I'm
beans.
telling you, you're
Also,
gonna
yeah, I guess I
die
was,
if
like,
you
getting
don't.
curious at
If
the
you
end of
don't
this,
get some
'cause I was
produce
like,
into your diet, it's important for you to fucking eat some
Well, that's why I
vegetables.
was like, Leo, I was gonna ask Leo, how do you feel about ketchup?
Ketchup is okay, but it's barely a tomato
Yeah,
at
it's
that
like
point.
it's not
man.
even.
It's
It's almost
not
not,
even
a
the
tomato
same.
anymore at that point. You're right.
Now
I
I've got to
I use
worry.
tomato paste in my chili, which is A little bit, I guess.
Good for
but
you.
It's not the same.
Whoop-de-doo. I guess we should all stop and clap for Leo because he uses tomato paste.
If
in
it's
his...
chunky tomato paste,
no,
I'm
okay,
out.
Bcom,
That's
hold on.
awful.
We gotta give Leo a clap here. Come on. All right.
He's making progress.
Yeah. All right, so so that's basically the end of that episode. The guy's like, "Oh, it's delicious," and it makes him feel better and all that, and that's the end. So,
okay, Kat, what is the title of episode 8?
You are not gonna do this bullshit to me. It's Espresso Expressivo.
No, it's not.
It is. It fucking is.
Even the Japanese people
get
it right, Kat.
All right,
even
it's
the
called
Japanese voice
a
actors
regional
get it right.
accent. I can call it espresso if I want to call it espresso. Everyone in Indiana calls it espresso. That's just the way it is
you
here.
call it espresso?
I never say it, but I hear people say it that way.
Yes, exactly. It's called a regional accent. All right, bitch. I can call it espresso.
It's called an incorrect accent. Okay, yes.
How can that accent be incorrect if it's native to you?
Because it's wrong. Anyway, okay, it's not that bad.
God. Okay,
So Gure episode.
Okay, we get an episode about Gure. It kind of feels like he was left out before this episode. It's a little late at this point, but I guess it's better than never. So Gure is making espresso art again, and he makes some kind of like creature of the Black Lagoon level panda like on top of this for these girls, and the girls laugh at this horrible latte art. Ask him where he came from, since it's obvious to them like he didn't come from Japan. And you find out that Gure was raised in Italy, and they're totally right. Okay, so at this point they point out that you don't see manual lever espresso machines these days, and they're totally right. Like, I worked in a coffee shop for a few years, and people were always amazed that we had a manual machine, and we didn't even have like the lever style like he does. We just had the type where you screw in the espresso cups instead of like just the button ones that Starbucks uses now. And in my opinion, the screw-in type, you get better coffee from it. So I'm not sure how that compares. Like, maybe the lever one is even better. I don't know, but it's interesting.
It looked cool. I kind of want to use one of those at some point. That'd be really fun.
I almost wonder if they would be
fancy.
I almost wonder if they would be less finicky, the lever type ones, because they don't have as much like machinery in them for them to go wrong. Because the manual espresso machines, the reason they fell out of style is because they are very finicky. Like, there's a lot of tubes and wires and shit in them. So I don't know. Okay, so Gure loves walking in this park near the shop. Like, this is the second, I guess, part of the episode. Gure notices this. He looks kind of like that kid from The Grudge if he grew up a few years. I don't know. That's what I thought. And he's sitting at the park all the time. And so he tries to talk to the dude, but like, he's just not interested. And the kid at one point says like he thinks Gure's life looks so fun because Gure's also always so energetic and all that. The implication being that the kid's life isn't that fun. Gure, okay, he just grabs this kid's stuff at one point and just takes it to the duck boats and is like, "You're gonna get on this duck boat with me." I mean, he basically terrorizes this kid. Like, this is probably really traumatic, especially in Japan, because like in Japan, like everything is like personal space boundaries. So I mean, damn. Gure is
but duck boats.
Oh, I know. Also, like, I don't know. I've never seen a duck boat except in an anime. Like, I don't know. I don't know what they're doing in Japan with all these duck boats. Gure is surprised at how the kid is angry about this. And in his mind, I feel like Gure already has this kid like in the duck boat club that he's a part of, even though the kid is obviously not fucking interested at all. Gure is one of those people that kind of like runs over everyone with their personality if they're not kind of handled correctly by the people around them. And they don't mean to run over you, but they will, you know, and you gotta like be a little firm with them.
Right.
Yeah. Okay. So then later in the episode, Gure so he gets a package in the mail from his teacher that taught him how to brew espresso. And it's unroasted coffee with no note. I guess he doesn't feel like he needs to write a note. I've never seen someone roast their own coffee beans. It looked really cool. He had like this mesh thing and he was like roasting it. It was really interesting.
It was like almost he had like a mesh strainer that he was using for it.
Yeah, and he was kind of like flipping it
did
in the
look cool.
air, and it looked cool. So you find out that the kid that he met earlier in the episode is being bullied at school, and that's why he's not going to school and is in the park. One day, the four guys from Rokuhodo are all out eating and drinking, and they come home like kind of tipsy. Like Tsubaki especially is just trash because he can't hold his alcohol, and he tried to compete with Gure. I don't know, and the scene where they're walking through the park is really soothing. I don't know if you guys like, even that scene is just really beautiful and calm. I love this anime. Gure sees the kid who just ran out of the house after seeing his parents fight, and Gure takes him into the shop and has him sit down while he makes espresso. At some point, Gure says his dream while he's making the espresso, he says his dream is to make everyone happy. And all I could think was like, are you a magical girl, Gure? Like, I don't know.
No, he's a magical Italian boy. That's what he is.
Gure explains that in Italy, he was a very angry teenager because he was dirt poor and he had no family. The teacher he eventually learned espresso from took him into the shop just like he did to this kid just now and made espresso for him and gave him a talk like, kid, don't expect the people around you to change for you. The world is unfair and there are tons of things you'll never change. And then you've got to try changing yourself, and like it's all motivational and all that. But it was a good episode. It was interesting to see that he used to be much more angry and serious.
Also, young Gure is super hot.
He is a little hot.
Holy shit.
Like
he is so attractive. It's ridiculous.
If
I think he's like the most attractive male character I've seen in anime since like the guy from Wolf Children.
I mean, I don't know if I go that far. He's not that hot. There's definitely hotter people.
Oh, he
this
is to me,
season.
Kat. He's my type at least.
Oh, okay.
Damn. Actually, seriously, like I liked that his character design as a younger guy looks like quite a bit different from him as an adult. Because like a lot of times when they do flashbacks in anime, they just give him the exact same face and hair, and they're like, "Oh, this is what he looked like when he was younger too." But like, no, he actually looks like a different person as an adult because he has like actually grown and changed his style.
I don't know. I just thought he kind of looked like emo-ish and grungy.
So he had like longer hair. His facial like features were a little bit like more defined, I guess, as a kid or as a teenager.
It was interesting for sure. Yeah,
it was cool.
Well, now that we've learned Bcom's type, we need to remember this. Make
he's
a
my
note.
Good God.
But yeah, so the kid vents a little and explains how he knows he's running away from his problems and he hates himself for it, but finds it hard to change. He asks Gure if it's not like scary to change who you are. Gure tells him like you just have to start doing it and the rest will follow. And then I mean it's all kind of like cutesy and cliche, but it's good. It's a feel good kind of thing. And then at the end of the episode, Gure gets the kid to come to the boat club after school and has all the Yakuza guys like that he always goes to the boat club with make this epic pose, and they're just like, "Welcome to the duck boating club," and I'm just like, oh my god. And also I'm just imagining all of these like Yakuza thugs just pedaling duck boats happily with
right.
I'm like,
right.
what the fuck?
You're just like, what the fuck? Yeah, when you see this scene.
It was funny.
Yeah, so I really liked the kid's story because, he's like bullied at school and stuff. Like, I felt like this is what Magical Girl Sight would be if it had any tact whatsoever. Like, it would be this episode.
Oh, it doesn't, dude. That manga gets so much worse.
Yeah. I've heard people continuing to watch that show just saying it's getting even more ridiculous every episode.
Oh,
so,
it
yeah.
doesn't
It is.
stop, man.
It is getting ridiculous. Anyway.
So at the very end of this episode, that kid, it sounds like he says hentai.
Yeah, I listened to that like 15 times. He says like kono hito te hetai. It sounds like he says hetai. He doesn't say hen. But like the only thing it can really mean is like this guy is like really weird because he's like looking at like Gure with the duck club guys and he's like this guy is freaking weird.
Well, because hen can also just mean weird.
Yeah, hen means weird.
Yeah,
and
it doesn't
hentai
necessarily
means,
mean like a pervert. Yeah, so maybe that's what it is.
Yeah, it's just saying he's just a weird or a strange dude. That may be it. But yeah, I heard that and I was like, what? And I just kept listening to it and I'm like, man, he could be saying hentai. I'm not sure.
Also, I got super annoyed with the woman who was walking her dog and like kept letting her dog lick the kid's face. Like, control your dog, woman.
All right, but
you
like,
lost your park
as
privileges.
I cannot believe this got to you.
Okay, as someone with a big dog, Like, you cannot always control your dog. If someone, like, your dog will run up to some people sometimes and be excited and, like, lick their face. Yeah. That happens, okay? I agree that, like,
don't walk it in the park.
All right, that's ridiculous, though. You have to walk your dog. Now, I do agree she should, like, after it happens, be like, stop, or whatever. But, like, you can't be pissed off at dogs. So you can't 100% control your dog at all times.
That's true. That's
all right.
But that dog was like licking his butt or something, and then he goes licks your face. It's like, oh, come on, dog.
That's just something you learn to not think about.
Christ.
You just learn to never think about where your dog's tongue has been in the day.
That's true. The same with cats. Like, I don't think about it anymore. Anyways.
Yeah.
All right. Should we move on to the next thing?
Sure.
Yeah,
all right. So, it's me. All right. On Wednesdays, we got Steins Gate 0 still going. Episode 7, Eclipse of Vibronic Transition.
These fucking names, man.
That's pretty ridiculous.
So,
yeah, we start off, it's pretty dire. Like, the whole gang is, like, held at gunpoint by the mysterious people who came charging in at the end of the last episode. And, like, this one last person walks in, kind of looking like Celty from Durarara in, like, full motorcycle suit with, like, a helmet on. But we don't know who this person is. I assume it's a girl, though, because she has, like, a very feminine body. But
she has huge boobs.
Yes. So, which could be anybody on the cast, honestly.
I have a theory, though. I think it's one of two people.
Me too, basically, yeah. So, she whispers to one of her guys to shoot their TV, which is interesting to me. And then they grab Kagari and report that they've secured K6205, is what they call her. However, before they can leave, Braun comes up from behind them on the stairs and, like, just starts bonking their heads together, basically.
He just goes all Jason Statham on them. He just fucking wrecks them.
And so they get, like, spooked, and they have to basically run without Kagari before they all get caught by
do you
Braun.
remember in the first Steins Gate where they talk about how CERN has been, like, spying on them from their TV?
Yes.
So my theory is, like, these people are from another organization who's, like, watching CERN, and that's why they're taking Kagari. Maybe because she's been with them since she has, like, memory loss or whatever the fuck, and, like,
very likely.
That's why they have her shoot the TV. That's my theory.
Interesting. Okay, so after all this, like, Okabe and Daru, like, talk things through, and Okabe comes to the conclusion that it's unlikely that the girl in black was a Moeka again this time, because even in this world line, Braun would still be, like, the boss, like, one of the rounders running her around, yet he came to, like, their aid, so he wouldn't have come to help them if, like, he knew Moeka was in on it, so it's not her.
And he also willingly had his
daughter there.
Up there.
His daughter there, too.
Yeah.
Exactly, yeah. Maho made it back to her office, but, like, strangely, Professor Leskinen won't answer his phone, and she can't connect to the Amadeus system at all.
Isn't there, like, a weird scene where Professor Leskinen is, like, smirking, too? Like, I remember that.
I don't remember.
What?
I feel like I remember that. Like, there's just a flash of him, like, smiling in this creepy way in this episode, and I was like, oh, this dude is in on it. This dude is, like, in with someone. I don't know.
It's definitely suspicious, for sure. Yeah. Suzuha goes over to Ruka's shrine to check if Kagari is okay. And, like, apparently, like, Okabe and Daru had installed some, like, security cameras there at some point, so it's, like, fairly secure. And Ruka finally catches on to the fact that Suzuha keeps calling everyone, like, Big Sis or Big Bro or, like, Uncle Ocarine, and asks her, like, why Kagari said, like, Mommy Mayuri right before she was going to sleep earlier. And Suzuha tells her, like, she thinks Ruka is the only one Ocarine won't tell about anything because he relies on the fact that Ruka remains completely, like, a part of whatever given world line he's in to be, like, his rock, and that it saves him, basically. And Ruka's like, oh, that sucks, but kind of accepts it. And so, yeah, Okabe goes and talks with Brown and tries to confirm with him that, like, the raid wasn't on his orders as, like, FB, the rounder. And there's, like, this cute moment here where Nai, his daughter, sees her dad getting kind of scary with Okabe, and he's just like, honey, just watch some anime with headphones on. She gets, like, when she gets, like, when she's allowed to watch anime, she gets this huge smile on her face. She's like, yay, anime. So I just really like that. And so, okay, after this, suspiciously, Mayuri's cosplay friends are out to lunch, and they're talking about what happened, and Yuki's arm is injured. And I was like, why is her arm hurt? Very suspicious.
Yeah.
She claims she heard it in a fall yesterday, but it's like, maybe she's the one in the motorcycle getup. Maybe.
Oh,
maybe,
see, I didn't even think that. That's interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, she was one of my
one
choices.
Possibility. Like,
my other possibility, it's that Judy Ray's character.
Oh, that's possible too. Yeah.
Those are my two. What was your other one, Bcom?
I don't know. Like, I was thinking that she looked so much like Suzuha, but it would have to be Suzuha coming back from the future, and that doesn't make much sense to me. I think it could be Mayuri. Like, if they just want to go really surprising, like, but that doesn't make a lot of sense to me either. So yeah, I think Yuki is like a top prospect.
But she was there.
Yeah, but like maybe like her future self or something.
That would be fucking weird as hell because that is not in her character at all.
Well, I know, but like in Steins Gate before, we have seen Okabe like in the same space as his past self in the same world line at times.
Yeah.
Like, well, so it could be something like that.
I agree with you. It might be something like that because Mayuri is obviously like worried about this whole thing too. I don't know.
Yeah. So yeah, once Brown knows everything that Okabe knows about him, he's a little on edge, but realizes like CERN won't have a problem as long as none of his secrets have been leaked, which they haven't at this point. And so at this point, Suzuha and Kaguri arrive at the shop, and they basically convince Braun to let them like work part-time. And so like Suzuha and Braun can like keep an eye as like bodyguards on Kaguri. And they can also better protect Nai and stuff. And Nai kind of convinces Brown as well because she likes this idea. So yeah, Okabe and the others brainstorm about like what the number K6205 could mean. They actually, I actually like kind of guessed this as they were trying to figure it out because like, oh, that sounds like a Mozart thing, and it's like, oh yeah, it is. So one of like Mayuri's cosplayer friends, Kaede, who realizes it might be like related to Kokel numbering, which is like Ludwig von Kokel used like in 1862 this numbering system to catalog all of Mozart's compositions. So K620. Part 5 refers to part of Mozart's opera, The Magic Flute. And so, I don't know, maybe if you go look into The Magic Flute, you might get some clues about what's going to happen in this show, but I was like too lazy to do that. I kind of skimmed through it and I was like, oh, there's some stuff about like, yeah, this seems like it could be related, but I didn't really look too far into it. Okabe immediately thinks to try to contact Amadeus to ask about all this, but Maho tells him the system still's down and like might have been taken over by someone, possibly worst case. And so then Okabe immediately after this receives a call from Amadeus, and Kurisu sounds like really stressed and the connection is really bad. And as he looks at the shot out TV monitor, his reading Steiner activates right at the end. And then in the post-credit scene, we find out the world line has changed and Amadeus has been removed from his phone. And most strangely of all, he's in the lab and there's a live version of Makase Kurisu there, like a living version of Kurisu, looking confused at like why Okabe is so scared. So yeah.
Yep. Yeah.
That was cool.
Yeah, that was neat, but I feel like this show is slow as fuck.
I mean, not really.
Yeah.
I feel like there's a lot going on. It's just like, I don't know.
It's dropping a bunch of hints, like little hints all at once. And it's like, you can try to piece this all together if you want. And it's like, yeah, that's kind of fun. I don't know. Like, I feel like with this series, I kind of just like want to turn my brain off and just see it all play out.
Yeah,
because like there's so many possibilities still at this point. It makes you
think
it's like,
too much sometimes, and it doesn't give you enough like actual stuff that's like blatantly going on. I do agree with that.
Right.
Yeah. But yeah, so episode 8.
This episode was good.
Ananomic duel. So at the beginning of this episode, Okabe has switched to a timeline where Kurisu is still alive somehow, but as a trade-off, Mayuri is the one who's dead. So like this is, in my opinion, this is the timeline where you remember where Okabe has like repeated the world line where he's trying to save Mayuri like several times.
Yep.
And he freaks out at one point and like almost destroys the microwave, but then doesn't. You remember that scene?
Yes.
In my opinion, this is like the scene where he does freak out and destroy it.
Right. So in this one he chooses basically Kurisu over Mayuri, like the opposite of his choice.
Yeah. And apparently, according to Kurisu, Okabe hasn't been back to the lab since Mayuri died, and he's fallen off the grid. And I remember there's a specific scene in the first series where, I don't know, like, but yeah, like I said before, like, that's what I think this is, because it seems like that. Okabe wonders why he has switched timelines, because he hasn't really done anything, and this is the first time I think in the series where like he hasn't done anything and yet the timeline is switched. And there's that flash of like another earthquake in Russia that went across the TV right before he switched. So that's probably has something to do with it. I bet that was CERN because like, okay, the reason I think that might have been CERN is, I mean, for obvious reasons too, but like in the real world, there are a lot of people who online who like think that CERN creates earthquakes artificially, and there's all these conspiracy theories about it.
Oh boy.
Which are BS. It's silly, but like that's why I think that they're kind of like maybe, you know, taking that and running with it and making it a plot in this anime. I don't know.
There's definitely some connection with Russia and Kurisu's father, though, because like when he ran away with her research, he took it to Russia. We saw like a news report.
Yes,
so like if anybody has built a time machine, it might be Russia, and that might be what's going on right now.
Yeah,
that like when his reading Steiner's like activating, it's probably because like they are testing their time machine. I'm guessing.
Yeah, so in this universe, apparently Mayuri has died of a heart attack. He gets in trouble with Daru at one point in this like episode where he asks, "What if there's a world line where she could have lived?" And he's like talking with all of their friends at a cafe, and Daru just gets really pissed off, and they argue about it because like Daru sees that as like, well, you chose not to let that be the case,
right.
And apparently Kurisu has like a GPS of Okabe in this world, and they like she won't say why because like she tracks him down later, but I wonder if like he tried to kill himself on this world line because of the guilt, and like that's why she has it to like keep track of him and make sure he's not dead. I don't.
Could be,
that was my thought. Kurisu talks about how she's sure he's from another world line because he's sitting in Mayuri's spot at the lab, and like Okabe from this world would never do that because he's so guilty about the fact she's dead. Like he won't sit in the spot that she used to sit in. Then Kurisu tells him to go back to the other world line with her remade microwave. So she's basically like remade the time machine thing. But I mean, I thought about this at this point because wouldn't that just be like that, like him leaving? Because if you think about it, like when he uses the microwave, he's only transporting his like memories and his like version of him and his memories. Like there's still a version of him that's left behind. So like he's just escape. Like it's not like he's really saving either of these girls when he switches world lines because like they're still dead in that line.
In that world line, yeah.
He's really just kind of escaping it. I don't know.
Yeah, he's just going to a world where he can be happier, basically.
Pretty much, yeah. But and also she says he's from a different world line, but like technically this is the first world line. Like this is the one he's originally from. Like this is the OG line.
So.
I don't know. It's all just what he personally prefers. Like if you think about it, it's not.
Right.
He's not preventing anything.
He acts fucked up anyways, no matter which one he chooses. So I don't think
That's
it really
true.
matters.
So then later in the episode, they do a stereotypical grave visit to Mayuri's grave, and like I saw this coming as soon as they got on the bus. I was like, oh, she's taking him to the grave. Like there's
yeah.
I don't know. I was a little irritated at that. It was a little too stereotypical. Kurisu has this theory that she doesn't make a time machine unless she interacts with Runtaro, which is utter bullshit in my opinion, because she has that whole theory made up and she like presents it to her father, but like the day that she meets him.
But like in the original series, he does kind of like push her over the like finish line. Like he motivates her with his crazy passion for the time machine.
Well, but
like continue that.
But if she had never met him, she just would have given that to her father anyway.
True. Yeah.
So like that's bullshit. That's total bullshit. That's so like I don't know.
I guess that's true.
I feel like they just do that because it's like main harem dude focus. I don't know.
Yeah.
Kurisu is damn smart on her own. Like she didn't. I don't know. I do agree that he should stay away from Amadeus though, because it seems like that's probably not the best idea. Because maybe I don't know. And then I noticed like Rintaro is telling Kurisu about everything again, just like he did the last season, where like Rintaro will only talk with Kurisu about all the fucked up shit going on with the timelines. Which I mean, I guess it's just because like he cares about her more than anyone. And
he doesn't want to burden Mayuri with it, basically. Like,
yeah. And then they do the grave scene where it's clear that Rintaro just fell completely apart when Mayuri died, and Kurisu talks about how he just was so fucked up by it. And I'm just like, yes, I know. I mean, it was a good scene though. It's just, so they go back to the lab at this point, and they pick a message to send back in time so that they can switch the timeline again. And they pick "Don't Come In" to Kurisu, which seems a little weak. Rintaro can't do it. Okay, so like I thought that the scene that they show and that they're planning is the one where that Kurisu comes to the lab for the first time after the conference.
No.
It's like okay.
It's like right before she's gonna leave to go back to America or something, I think, and like she's coming to the lab because she's gonna like confess her love to Okabe. And so she's sending a text message to herself, so she will like wait 1 minute outside the door reading that text while Okabe pushes the button to erase the D-mail on like CERN's servers that will like roll back the world line to like the original one. And like that's the world line where Kurisu dies. So Kurisu basically is like sending this D-mail to herself so that Okabe will like choose Mayuri over her. So it's kind of like crazy what she's doing.
Well, it's
like,
interesting.
I kind of got emotional actually at this point because I was like, wow, that's actually really cool.
Well, I mean, she's killing herself basically if you think about it. I don't know if that's cool. But
in another world line, I guess. But like, she's like sacrificing another version of herself, sort of. Yeah.
But I mean. I think it would have made more sense for her to send herself a text never to come to the lab in the first place, because then like I don't know, that would have probably been a better plan. So
yeah, probably.
Yeah. So Rintaro can't do it, but then Kurisu leans over and kisses him and pushes the send button for him. And apparently it didn't really work because she still bursts in and is like, "I love you," but I guess it's like too late anyway because he's already pushed the button.
It's a bit too late, I think.
Yeah.
I think Okabe made like a sort of like a important logical leap here, because like in this scene, like Kurisu like basically hints that her perception of their first meeting is different from what he remembers. And he sort of has this thought about like how she perceived it is different from what I thought she perceived our first meeting to be like. And so I think that's going to lead him down the path to where he might be able to figure out a way to save Kurisu during their first meeting if he goes back in time, and also save Mayuri somehow. Like, I think that's what that's hinting at will happen later down the line. I thought that was pretty interesting.
That is interesting. We'll have to see if that happens. But yeah, that's the end of this episode. There was this the scene where she kisses him. It's very like heartfelt and dramatic, and it's good. I
liked that.
I just get a little annoyed when there's too many like dramatic or cliche scenes, but like it objectively it is good. Objectively, it was a good episode. So
I read that this episode was like 80% anime original, like greatly expanded on like this part of the visual novel, which is pretty cool, because I thought this was like a pretty strong addition to the story. If it is an addition, like it felt like it belonged here, like it was a really interesting, like intriguing tie-in to the past.
Yeah, so, it was interesting. Yeah.
All right, Leo, any thoughts?
No, I can't really add any more because I don't really remember what the first season was about. So
there's like so much shit going on at the end of that first season, and even though I recently watched it, I was like, oh yeah, that like he presses like the D-mail button. I was trying to figure that all out. I had to like rejigger my memory, but
yeah.
Okay. So
all right,
we'll talk about
take it away.
Bcom's favorite show. Doreiku.
Yep.
So we are all the way on episode 7 called Servitude. It's a pretty straightforward episode, this one.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah.
So after Julia gets dumped by Seiya, we're basically getting her background here. She goes to like a bar to drink away her worries. She has no place to go, so the barkeep says she has a friend that she can room with. She ends up going to the house, and she doesn't find anybody at first until she finally runs into Ryu, or whatever you want to say his name. Apparently his mom works all the time and is never at home. So Julia kind of takes it upon herself to befriend the kid and plays a game with him where she initially ends up becoming a slave. His first command is to have her strip, and he's just kind of like blown away it actually works.
Yeah, he's like, wow, you actually stripped.
Yeah. He then has her take him to a brothel where his mother has worked and basically enslaved there to be a fucking sex worker. But of course, he gets turned down at the door, and like the owner shows up. It's Muon, the sleazeball, and he tells the kid he will give his mother back for 100 million yen. This causes Ryu to create the site where he sees how far the SCM will let him take it and torture so he can attract attention and make people his slaves and get the money out of them. Julia has also seemed to develop a case of Stockholm syndrome / like a motherly love for you at this point.
Yeah,
So-
like when she's taking those like naked bondage pictures, she like comes up behind him and like hugs him with like her breasts to the back of his head, and then like they fall on the floor and they're like hugging each other. I'm like, okay, this is interesting.
Yeah. That's your first half. The second half is Fujiko and Ryu having a match of capture the flag with their slaves. And the winner gets the other person and all their slaves.
This was kind of ridiculous.
Yeah, it's just whatever.
Yeah.
I mean, if you want to know how it plays out, Ryu wins, bringing his like slave total to like 11. But if you want to know what happens in the match, I mean, just watch the show.
Yeah, the only part I was like, this is kind
plot.
of weird is when so like Julia is like staying at home protecting their flag, and she like electrocutes herself in this pool of water,
Right.
to like show the other team that like if they get close, they're gonna like get electrocuted and die.
Yeah.
I was like,
Well, because then they don't
wasn't-
have to follow orders, because then they could die. But like she does it,
Correct.
Right.
not be, like willingly, because
She
she's
does it willingly. Yeah.
like a
Yeah,
crazy
she does it willingly.
bitch and has like become all fucked up by Ryu, basically.
Yeah, I thought that Ryu ordered her, but I guess it makes more sense that she would have done it willingly.
Oh yeah, it's definitely showing that she's performing these acts basically of her own free will at this point.
It's so weird. Her like whole motivation seems to be like, I want to hold hands. Like, I was like, what?
She just wants someone to like care about her, who then she can care
Yeah.
about. Because like I think she's just been
guess.
fucked over too many times by all the people in her life.
And like the one with Seiya just fucking was the last straw.
Yeah.
Right. Well, yeah, that was interesting. Like, I don't capture the flag. It's kind of funny.
Wait till you get to
All
the
right.
pool scene later.
Oh, great. All right, tell me about episode 8 then.
All right, Discovery. Ryu's group is trying to figure out who the new star icon is that has appeared recently on the map. It's in a school, so he sends Julia in a uniform disguised as one of the students. And even
We
I
both
was
thought
like,
this was kind of dumb.
I was like, Julia?
I was like,
what?
how old is Julia? She seems like she's supposed to be like almost 30 at least. I don't know.
Yeah.
Why was Taiju not the better choice? Considering
Right? Yeah.
I feel like
he
that
can dress as a female.
that
and
business
he's
guy
the correct age.
was just like, I want to see Julia in a school uniform because she's hot as fuck. Like, why don't I suggest
And he wanted to see
this?
Fujiko in a nurse uniform, clearly,
Yeah.
too.
Oh yeah. Yeah, so yeah, that's whatever. Fujiko also goes in as a substitute nurse and actually discovers someone who has an SCM. It's the sleazy looking guy from the end of the last episode that she discovers first. This is obviously the guy that stole the SCM in the first place. What was
Yeah.
his name? Setagaya?
Setagaya, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Julia gets a text from Fujiko and is told to meet in a certain classroom. She runs in there, and then a girl shows up who saw at the end of the last episode. Where did it go? Oh, there it goes.
Minami? Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, her name's Minami, and the other guy introduces himself as Tsubaki, and Minami is his assistant apparently. Julia tries to leave, but Fujiko has already become the other guy's slave, and they drug her and kidnap her. She comes to, and Tsubaki explains that his SCM is one of a kind and called Judgment SCM. He tries to get Julia to put in her SCM, but she spits it out. He decides to use this opportunity to see how long she can go without it. I have a sneaking suspicion she has been released from her slavery.
Well,
maybe.
there's things about her that are different than most slaves because she like is willingly.
You're right.
Yeah.
So we may get a weird outcome here. So,
yeah, for sure.
Yep.
But moving on, Aya decides to duel Nerima next and goes into his place. Interestingly, it's his daughter Minami who is the master. They agree to a game where it is whoever makes the most money in the next 2 hours. Oh, if you wanted to know the background, like I guess Minami's father was like way too overprotective, and it was just fucking driving her crazy.
It's interesting though because even though Minami is the master, like she's kind of not at the same time because like he makes all the decisions still, and she basically is treated like the slave even if she is the master.
So, the game they agree to do is whoever can make the most money in the next 2 hours. You can't use phones, computers, any current money you have on you or in a bank account don't count. Minami goes with Aya to watch her, and Zushi stays behind with the old man. Aya earns her money by singing on the street and has one of her slaves actually drop off a huge amount of cash for her. She also has Yuga go to Nerima as a loan shark, but he sees through the scheme and keeps the 10 million yen Yuga had on himself. Aya goes back, and what turns out is that they had put a timer in the bag and expected him to see through their ruse easily. Well, this timer is an incendiary timer, and it just burns all the money in the bag. But the money his shops made that day doesn't match Aya's amount she has earned, so she wins those two as her slave now.
Yep.
Bcom.
So I had a couple funny like remarks on this. So like Aya sings like a version of like the OP, and I'm sorry, Aya, honey, but like, you need singing lessons.
Okay, like you just
still better than Maho Shoujo Ore.
You just called it.
That's true.
You called it ear cancer though, and while it's not the best, it's not ear cancer. Like I feel like you just hate everything.
Well, actually, I called the
soundtrack.
rest of the soundtrack ear cancer. Like, there's some bad like tracks that keep getting played, like these like weird synth tracks in these episodes. And I'm just like, man, this music is not very good. Like, I don't know. Aya's not ear cancer. She's just like not very good, especially when you realize that like between Aya's singing and her slave who she sends to get donations, they make $8,217 in 2 hours. And I was like, she's not that good.
How much was it that the slave dropped off?
I think it was like $8,000. I think really all she made was like $200.
Yeah,
the
vast
it was
majority,
definitely most. Yeah,
which she got through donations from people at like the clubs she used to frequent, I guess, because she couldn't just get it out of like a bank account because that's against the rules.
Correct.
Okay, I will admit you made the point. Like, they didn't have to burn the 10. You're right. Like, really, they could have made fake money. I feel like they could have made fake money convincing enough that, like, he wouldn't notice. Because he's like, I would have noticed fake money.
He says...
but I'm like, that's bullshit.
Well, it's his profession.
You cannot notice fake money that easily. Like, come on. So, like, really, all they had to do... Mm-hmm.
The biggest problem I had was like this was their plan, like this is their idea for the duel, and it's like we're gonna like burn $91,000, and I was like, that's the best duel you could come up with, really?
Well, like is it Yuga? He chalks it up as somebody somebody crazy enough to bring up with an idea like this, and you're like, what?
Right. I mean, to their credit, it does work, but it's like, man, that's a waste of money. Also, like, Setagaya goes on this weird rant babbling about how, like, some people are meant to be free and some people are meant to be slaves, and I need to show the world a better way to live with the SCM. And I was like, okay, calm down.
Well, but he is the villain.
Just like, if, like, the villain had, like, a more, like, comprehensible ideology, I think I would, like this show more, but, like, he just seems like a crazy person, basically. I don't know.
I think he's, like, a version of the Joker. He just wants to cause chaos.
Yeah, basically.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow, that was our shortest Doreiku segment.
Yeah, well, there was, like I said, episode 7, not really much happened. And I feel like the show really toned it back these 2 episodes, which was interesting, I guess.
Yeah.
Well, now we are going to take time for a little commercial break. Actually, have some commercials from a few other podcasts that are our friends.
Oh my God, our first commercial break ever. Let's savor this moment.
We're selling out. That's what we're doing.
Oh shit. All right.
All right, play it, Bcom.
All right, so we'll be right back after these messages.
I'll see ya.
And here's another tasty morsel from the Trash Pandas Watch Anime podcast.
Some fan service.
Yeah. I mean, it worked pretty well in Dragon Ball. Do you remember those scenes with Bulma?
Bulma was running around in a bunny outfit for the longest time.
I know. Akira Toriyama.
We can get the Dragon Balls, and then we can make our wish. Bulma's panties.
Did Oolong wish for Bulma's panties, or did you just wish for a pair of panties?
I think it was just a pair of panties. I'm sure it's different in the Japanese than it is in the English dub. But yeah, he just wished for panties. They're probably used.
As always, you can find us on Facebook and on Twitter at Trash Panda Anime. You can find us on our website, tpwapodcast.com. You can also find us on assorted sites like SoundCloud, Stitcher, and iTunes.
Hey Colin, did you get the cardboard cutout of Consul Kev?
Did I ever? It's amazing.
Oh, I think so too. I hate that guy. Kevin, what are you doing here?
Just eavesdropping on all the, the bad things you say about me. My usual Wednesday.
Oh, well, did you at least prepare for the Retro Gaming Podcast?
Absolutely not.
Oh, God, that figures. Alright, it's okay. I'll take it from here. Basically, we pick a theme every time, and we pick a number of games based on that theme. Just like our first episode where it lasted forever and we talked about space games.
Yeah, and other good, all the mainstream systems and games you love, like the 3DO, the Atari Jaguar.
Oh, come on! Colin, you back me up here. The 3DO is awesome, right?
Yeah.
Oh, I thought we were friends. I mean, it's cool. Alright.
If you want to hear 3 guys talk about games that are bad because JD picked them all, and good games that Kevin picked, join us.
Who here wants to see a bunch of nerds talking video games with a little bit of anime thrown in there? Nobody? Just me? Damn!
Well, speaking of anime, Colin, we have an anime cast as well.
Yes, we do. All retro anime. Many of which I have never heard of myself. And I'm a weeb!
Very similar premise there. We pick a retro anime, at least 15 years or older, and we review it every episode. We also keep up on all the modern stuff, all the seasonal things from the year. Hey, Kevin, you just got back into wrestling, right?
I did.
Oh my god, did you know we also have a wrestling cast that just started?
I do now, because nobody tells me anything.
Well, what do you think of the big dog these days?
He still sucks.
Well, that's good. Well, luckily, we just don't complain about WWE stuff. We also talk about a lot of the latest and greatest from the rising indie scene, New Japan, and Ring of Honor.
I like rings and honor.
Well, you should definitely listen to the Red Leaf Retrocast. We have such a wide range of topics, ideas to discuss, and just anything to review. It's fantastic, don't you guys think so?
It's alright!
Absolutely. And thanks again for the Sailor Moon episode. That's got me a lifetime supply of salt for my fries. From the fans. Ha!
That's the Red Leaf Retrocast. All things gaming, anime, and wrestling, found on all your favorite podcasting websites.
Hey, do you like wrestling?
Whether it be in a bar, an arena, some weird place in Asia, or in a stadium?
Or the occasional penis plex?
Well, if any of these things might tickle your fancy, anywhere in between from penises to wrestling, you can come and check out our podcast.
Our podcast name is Smack It Down. We talk all things WWE, New Japan, anything else in between.
I'm Jay Silver.
I'm Corey Gold.
And we look forward to you joining us.
Happy Rusev Day.
Happy Rusev Day indeed.
Alright, we're back, and we are on to Hisone to Masotan. And we've got episode 7, which is titled Cat is Right.
Yes, bitches!
What could you possibly mean?
I told you it was going to be some bullshit, and you didn't want to believe me. All right.
The actual title is Kingdom of Love, but so first things first, there was like a weird error in the translation at the beginning of this episode because they say that like this project to like but like their big project for the end of this like episode is like going to cost 148.5 trillion yen, which made no sense because that's like more than Japan has probably. But like no, so they were supposed to say billion. Like the people who like translated this like corrected themselves later, which makes a lot more sense. That's like $1 billion or something rather than like $1 trillion.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So yeah, the plan now is in order to carry out this ritual is like. They want to take the D pilots and make them fall in love, basically, and then crush their feelings of love so that, like, they will only have pure feelings for the dragons.
That's some fucking dark ass shit, dude.
No, it's not even. It's just bullshit. It's just like, well, we want them to do X for the rest of their lives. And, like, they might want to do something else at some point, and we don't want that. So we're just going to fuck with the rest of their life, basically, to suit our ends. Like, they really what I found out is they all want them to be, like, yogurt ladies who go around the base when they're fucking old. They'll just all be
Gure
together.
lady or something?
Yeah, they'll all be together selling yogurt. Yeah.
Oh, man. So they bring in this woman, Staff Sergeant Akishima, who is a love expert. And she puts together like a bulletin board of like all of the possible like romantic ships on this base. And it's just like, to me now, it became painfully apparent that this is Mari Okada writing this fucking show. when she drags this like relationship drama into it, I'm like, oh God, it's like Kisniver all over again.
I never finished that one. I couldn't do it.
Yeah. So, yeah, the only person they don't mention is Jimmy, who is out trying to buy, like, Young Jump magazine so she can read the manga Kingdom. But, like, she finds that the pages of the magazine, like, she doesn't find it in the shop. She walks outside and the pages have been, like, trickled across the ground like breadcrumbs. And she's like, this is really suspicious, but I'm going to follow the path anyway because I want to read this manga.
Well, they say her finding love is impossible. Is what they say.
yeah, basically.
Yeah.
Which
it's
not
she
like
can
find love,
but it's not like that week's Kingdom. It's like the next week's Kingdom. It's like unpublished pictures.
Yeah, it's like extra special.
No, wait.
So,
no, it was that week's. It was sold out, but then he has next week's.
Okay.
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
Yeah.
Or he says he does.
He says he does.
So,
we'll get to that.
Yeah, Iboshi he's the one who lured her out, and he basically just wants like information, inside info, the scoop on the D pilots, like girl talk, like their romantic girl talk. So he gives her like a form of questions to ask them, and he's like, for every box you fill, you will get another page of Kingdom. And she's like,
this is where I'm like, this is such bullshit, A. And second of all, like, why is Jimmy just like, I lost all respect for Jimmy at this point because it's not even that she betrays the others because like sometimes characters do that shit. It's more just like she doesn't even know why she's being used, and she's just like, well, whatever. Yeah. I'll just go along with it. And it's like, you don't fucking, what? Like, you don't even have a brain. I don't know.
Yeah, she doesn't even know who the guy is. Like, later when she sees him in the episode, she's like, oh, it's Kingdom Guy.
Right.
She doesn't even know who this dude is. So, yeah, the girls go out to dinner that night, and Jimmy, like, asks them all, like, what is your, like, ideal male type? And Morris basically says, like, someone like Futomomo. And Hisone has, like, no idea. She's never thought about it before. And Eru just basically spends, like, a minute saying, like, everything about Zaito is exactly what she hates. But, okay, the commander gives Haruto tickets to invite Hisone out on a date to see a zombie movie. And he's not sure about it because he doesn't want to, like, have her fall in love with him and then have to, like, break her heart.
As you should internally debate this, like, I don't know, dude. This is not cool.
But, like, yeah, she's super drunk after a night out with the girls and, like, comes up to him and wants to... She wants him to make it up to her because, like, earlier in the episode, he had basically said, like, I would never wait around for you because he was, like, sort of being pressured by some guys in the hangar who were like, oh, how could you ever see Hisone as a girl kind of thing? And so he felt pressured to say that. And so she was, like, angry.
Say that she's, like, ugly. I think they just say she lacks womanly features.
basically.
I think they're basically saying she's like not got a lot of curves on her, like she doesn't have big boobs or anything. But I mean,
right? That's what
she's
I'm getting
skinny. Like she's not an ugly girl. Like I don't know.
Yeah, and cute. So I mean, like, I don't. Whatever.
It maybe just be her crazy personality as well drives people off.
Oh, maybe. Yeah,
maybe.
But yeah, so he does end up asking her out on the date to go see the movie, though. Meanwhile, back on base, Morris has a run-in with that guy Onaga, who's like sort of like the bigger pilot dude in the cafeteria, and she starts like just like feeding him food. Like she basically starts treating him like Futomomo because she like feeds him a bunch of food, and she gets like
it's because
really
she's the
happy.
motherly type.
Yes, she's a motherly type. Yeah, and then like when he's like been fed, he starts rubbing his like inner thigh, and she's like, "Ooh, it's so hard," and he just like runs the fuck away. It's pretty funny. And then like Jimmy's like, "That was fucked up," and she's like, "Oh, did I go too far?" And it's like, yes, you did. So yeah, before that though, like he also mentioned he thinks like Zaito is actually like a good guy. Onaga mentioned this. Just not when it comes to women. And this is when I was like, I was sighing already because I was like, oh god, it's the Zaito redemption arc.
Yes,
fuck.
I knew it was coming. I knew they were gonna do this bullshit. Because look at all of these characters' like faces, right? Look at how cute Zaito is as opposed to Onaga, which Onaga is a cutie in some ways. Like he's kind of the burly, like bumbling dude, but like you have to admit he's not like the most attractive looking dude in his face, right? Like look at Zaito next to him. What happens with the handsome dude? Usually they get a redemption arc. That's usually the way that goes.
That's why the title of this episode is Cat Was Right. And it's good to admit when you're wrong sometimes. I was definitely wrong about where the series was going, and this is something Leo can learn from too.
Man, you're still tore up about Machiavellianism, aren't you?
No, I think he's
among
more
other shows.
torn up about the earlier show we just covered.
Oh, I know what you're talking about. I'm just not saying it.
Oh, that's funny. Okay. So, meanwhile, the zombie movie that Hisone and Haruto are at is like really terrible and boring. But for some reason, Hisone is like crying her eyes out, and he asks her like, "What happened?" Like after the movie, and she's like, "No, the movie was like refreshingly shitty," is what she said. So I was like, I like that.
I do know some people that they like to watch like shitty B like horror movies because they get a kick out of it. I'm like, okay.
For sure, yeah.
But I like her little toy she's got, and she squeezes it and she's going, yeah. Every time she does that, I laugh. I think it's cool.
Yeah, she was crying because like she had realized like in the middle of the movie, like I've never been to see a movie with a friend before, which was kind of sad. So yeah, good reason to cry. And yeah, she gives Haruto this speech because he's talking about how his whole life has been on rails because his parents were in the JASDF. And like he's just following in their footsteps, and like he feels like he hasn't chosen anything for himself. But she basically tells him like, well, you love Masotan too. Like you found something to love about like your duty, just like I kind of have, and like that's why you're amazing to me. And he's like, oh, and he starts like ruffling his hair, and she's like, are you going for a wild look or something? And he's like, no, he's really embarrassed. So that was cute. So, Zaito, meanwhile, fucking Zaito, finds Eru running on a treadmill at the gym, and they get into this battle of like raising their treadmill speeds back and forth until Eru tells him he's been bested by a woman because she's like running faster than him. And he just like yells out, "You're so darn cool, Eru," and then like tries again. And she smiles at him because he thinks she's cool, and I want to just shoot myself in the head right now.
It's not that guys can't have like redemption moments or like be shitty towards someone and then like not be shitty. It's just like it's so stereotypical. Like I don't know.
It's like the cliche-ness of it, and as well as like how far they pushed his shittiness early in the series to only bring it back now. And it's like, come on. So yeah, Jimmy finally completes the form and gives all this info on the girls to Iboshi. And it turns out like the extra pages of Kingdom that he was holding for her were all fake. Like he had probably just drawn them himself or something. So she did it all for nothing. And at the end, Akishima reports back on like her love life investigation of the base and states that like the chances of any of these girls falling in love is just like immeasurably small. And like Akishima then says like, I'm frustrated with them because as women, they need to do their jobs and a woman's job is love. Like Remy like disagrees, but like only in like a kind of weak way. I was
That's
like,
such
Jesus
a terrible
Christ.
thing. That's,
I was like, wow. Yeah, this so went the opposite of the
because
way I was thinking
women
it was going.
only exist to find a man and settle down. That's their job in life.
Yeah, this ties in with my earlier problems with all the women getting shit on and all that fun stuff. And you're like, it's going to redeem it. And I'm like, I don't think it's going to, dude.
Yeah, they at this point, it's like they keep saying all this bullshit and they never really make it clear that they're going to like undercut it or like prove it wrong in some way at the end.
No.
Like it just seems like they keep piling on this shitty ideas about like what women should do. And then they like never bring it back. So yeah, I just thought this episode was fucking terrible. Like there's no other way to say it. It was terrible to me. I don't know. I hated it so much.
I did really like the part where that one like older major was talking to Remy and he's like, if only you had kept that dude instead of letting your friend like run off with him. Like if only you'd had the womanliness to like keep him. And like she just gives him this death glare of like 1,000
piercing
sun.
dagger eyes.
And I'm like, that's right, you just stay the fuck out of their business, dude. Like
I liked that too.
Yeah.
It's just I thought just like breaking their heart was just like some really dark territory. I can't believe this is like going there. But can you tell me the title for the next episode? Just fucked up.
Yeah, it's episode 46 of My Hero Academia. If only. No, the next episode is episode 8, limited time only, extremely spicy grandma flavor.
That just makes me sick thinking about it.
I know.
So, there was actually like a new OP this episode with like a few different visuals near the end of it. They're kind of like a preview of what's to come, like the dragons flying around in like a big storm, and all of these like little Miko girls who show up at the end of this episode are in there. So that was kind of cool. But Iboshi explains to the girls that their true mission is to carry out this Shinto rite, like the ritual, and it's performed every 74 years. And like they're basically they have to like with their OTFs escort this huge being called Mitatsu-sama to a place called Fushido, which is like off the coast, his place of like rest. And Mitatsu is like important because he's the only one who can like control the OTFs or keep them from losing control and causing like catastrophic damage to the world, basically. And also, Mitatsu is literally the island that they went for practice exercises on.
Yep.
Like, yeah, so that was cool.
This is the dumbest, like, fact/plot dump I think I've ever fucking seen. Like, or one of them at least. Like, they just dump all this shit on you. They're like, oh, by the way, like, the whole episode 8, this is when we've decided to change the whole meaning of this anime and, like, what the anime is about. Episode 8. Like...
Pretty much.
It's ridiculous.
Because up until now, we didn't know what the hell this anime was going to be about, right?
Nope.
Like, and then they just like, they're like,
absolutely
it's
no
about
idea.
this island thing.
Yeah, no, okay. Also,
So-
like, do the dragons never age then? Because they talk about how they like do this every 74 years. Like, do
we see later in the episode, they have like a collective dream, right? That Masotan was around 74 years ago. So
Okay.
maybe not. I don't know.
I don't know. It's
But
interesting.
yeah, Haruto and Hisone like run flight checks on Masotan before like this exercise. They're going to do a test exercise. And then Hisone tells them like she ordered the Blu-ray of the original zombie movie that they saw, like that terrible zombie movie. And she wants to like, she says like, I hope we can enjoy the shitty original together. I just like that she keeps calling it shitty. It's funny to me. So yeah, the Joa lady, her name is Sada Hinomoto, and she is one of the original pilots from 74 years ago, like the only surviving D pilot. And so her plan is to brief the new pilots on like this mission. And so, like, yeah, she tells them, like, Mitatsu flies very, very slowly. So basically, it's going to be a brutal mission because they have to remain airborne for 3 days and 3 nights inside of their OTFs while they escort him to his goal.
I had the same questions, Kat.
Yeah, no,
What
okay, so,
question
like,
is
you can, like, you know, eat inside or whatever and do all the other things, like drink your water, like, bring some water with you, sleep inside the dragon, whatever the fuck. You're gonna have to pee yourself. You're gonna have to pee
Those
on
suits
yourself.
are going to be nasty as
I
fuck
know.
when they get out
Also,
of there.
I'm pretty sure like the dragons are not gonna appreciate that. Just saying.
All right. This is something I did not consider. This is a very good point.
I had the exact same thought. I was like, 3 days? What? Where are they going to the bathroom? This is going to be awful.
Oh, man.
Have you heard the joke? You know, like Batman, like he's got that rubber suit on and oh geez, who did like College Humor? Did you see the skit where he's like, a man running around in a rubber suit all day must be really nice and tasty in here or something like that. It was just like, oh, and it made me think of that.
Oh god, they must smell so bad.
Oh yeah, it's just going to keep piling up, and it's just going to move slowly throughout this entire suit every time they move. So it's just going to be so fucking bad.
You'll be like sloshing around. God forbid if they have to take a shit. I don't know.
God,
that's not gonna be good.
Well, so they ignore all of those potential issues, and like the big problem that they decide to tackle is that they're probably gonna fall asleep sometime in the middle of this flight. And Sato's like, well, that's no problem. We just have to learn to fly in your dreams or something. So anyway,
some bullshit thing that she says. Yeah. All right.
Yeah, they do a practice run basically of this operation. And so the girls like really struggle to stay awake over 3 days. And like eventually, like when they're basically all starting to fall asleep, Sato and Remy fly out in a fighter jet themselves. And Sato starts like screaming at them over the radio. And by the way, Sato was a pilot like 74 years ago. She's probably at least like 90 years old right now in a fighter jet.
Yeah.
Like screaming at these girls like, damn.
Don't fuck with her is all I gotta say.
She basically tells them like, you're not trusting your OTFs because if you did trust them, you would let yourselves fall asleep and trust them to like carry on the mission. But Hisone's like, no, that's not really it. I just don't want to cheat like Masotan by like he has to stay awake this whole time, but like I don't. Like that's kind of cheating. But Masotan basically understands her feelings when she says this and like sorts to like lull her to sleep, like basically telling her like it's okay. And like Sato's like, yeah, just listen to the dragon, just like trust in them. And so they do. They all just finally like go to sleep in their dragons, and the dragons continue on with the mission. And basically they wake up and they're at the destination. Mm-hmm. So like while they were sleeping, right? They shared this dream where they realized that Masotan was on that original mission 74 years ago. So that means at least he's been around that long, if not all of them. And then so yeah, they come back to the base. They're exhausted, and immediately they're like a helicopter or plane. I think it's a helicopter lands with a bunch of like Shrine Miko girls.
I did not get this ending at all. What the fuck is going on?
They come back to the base. They've been peeing on themselves for 3 days. Immediately, Haruto runs up to her love interest and is like hugging him. I wouldn't do that if I had been in a dragon for 3 days and been peeing on myself, but whatever she wants to do.
Oh, you're like, definitely shitting on yourself too.
Yeah,
for
pretty
3
much.
days.
Like,
look, she doesn't have many boundaries, you know. She's not thinking about it. Oh god. So one of these Miko girls like runs up to Haruto as well. Her name is Natsume, and clearly knows him very well, and asks him like, who is this girl that you're like holding in your arms? And not only that, so like Vice Minister Yuboshi,
this is when we find out that he's a priest dude or whatever, like her love interest,
he's like
right?
the High Steward of the Department of Divinities, which I looked up. This is like an actual Japanese governmental office, which oversees like Shinto affairs and like offerings to like all of the like 3,132 different shrines in Japan for different gods. And it's like, holy crap, that's a complicated job. So I don't know why Haruto is the High Steward of this department.
Well, but he's not really though, because he's been like at this base taking care of the dragons this whole time, so I don't know how he can possibly be High Steward. Like, first of all, it doesn't make sense. Second of all, they definitely are setting up some sort of weird breeding program where they want Haruto to, like, fuck this Miko to have more military shrine babies or whatever. Like, that's totally what's going to happen.
God.
My guess is that the Miko are going to play like an instrumental role in like breaking the hearts of the D pilots. Like, I feel like the Miko are there to like steal their boyfriends away from them and break their hearts. I think that's where it's going. Like,
I felt like
especially
Natsumi,
like the after credit scene kind of hinted at that. I feel like,
yeah, I felt like Natsumi was like his younger sister.
Maybe
that's what I got. That's the vibe I got.
I don't know. I got like
I don't
kind
say
of
either
love
way.
interest, maybe younger sister, but yeah, I don't know. We'll find out more.
Bcom, this is an anime. The little sister can still be a love interest.
You're so right, Leo. Why did I even discount that?
You're
so
not
right.
wrong, Leo. You're not wrong.
I know, and I'm a little sad. I'm not wrong.
Man. Also, okay, so like the grandma, like the joy lady, like definitely dislikes these Miko, and I thought that was like maybe 74 years ago, like one of the Miko like stole her boyfriend away before their mission too.
Oh,
so
who
that's
knows?
why my theory is like that. Or she has some reason for disliking these Miko, whatever it is, which is probably going to be dumb at this rate.
Oh god, I can't believe you kept
man.
this.
I'm like, episode 7 was a real bummer.
I mean, we offered you a way out. You didn't take it.
Yeah.
I flipped a coin and I flipped wrong, okay?
So let's talk about Megalo Box.
All
Let's
right.
do that.
A much better
7.
show.
Yes. The Road to Death. So Joe now has his face plastered on like every wall, billboard, and sexy ladies' thighs. The intro to this episode was fucking legit.
It was
It was so slick. Like, oh man. That was so good. That could have been like a music video or something. Like, damn.
Yeah.
Totally. Yeah.
Yeah. Like, his face is plastered across every wall. If it's not on a poster, it's being spray painted on there. There's even like the chick where they're doing the tattoo of his face on the side of her thigh, and it says
Gearless Joe,
Gearless
yeah.
Joe, and I'm just like, this is awesome.
Well, then they like
Even
pull
in the
up.
song, I think they're rapping like Gearless Joe, Gearless Joe.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
it was
Well,
pretty
and then
fucking
the
cool.
two girls like pull up on the bike looking like a pair of like honeys or whatever, and like showing off the tattoo. And I'm like, all right, yeah.
Yeah, so the poor is basically just really taken to him. They love him because he's a nobody from nowhere. They know nothing about him like them. But then Nambu has a short conversation with Shirato, and it's about the likelihood of Joe making it in. The news seems to think the next match will be the last to see who makes it into Megalonia. It's between Mikio, the 7th rank, and the 4th ranked Sugar. So I almost say sugar, and I don't know, it's weird.
Yeah. They pronounce it sugar even though they spell it with an E instead of an A for whatever reason. Yeah.
And I just felt like the show really lost me here. I know what the outcome is now, but for the life of me, I couldn't figure out who they were talking about that has the gear that basically fights for them in this scene. It's because they say it, but then they look at
they look at both of them at the same time.
Yeah, they do.
Yeah, they look at like Sugar first, and I'm like, what? Yeah. But then something they say later on makes it sound like they actually meant the other guy. So that was
it's definitely Mikio. We figured that out later.
Yeah, we know it's Mikio for sure. He easily wins, and he's also Shirato's brother. Mikio now wants to fight Joe to see who gets the last spot in Megalonia. He has this whole theory behind it because he thinks, Shirato is going to set it up anyways. So Mikio is going to set it up his own way and just do it. But Shirato doesn't want her brother to be in Megalonia for reasons not quite yet revealed. Just that in some way it works against her overall agenda. Mikio is aware of this and anticipated that she was going to sick Joe on him next anyways. It seems that maybe Mikio is a little bit sour that their grandfather made her the successor and not him, which turns out is the whole big deal.
Yeah.
It also seems this whole time that Joe's advantage had been that the gear has a slight delay since it has to respond to the muscles, making Joe a little bit faster than everybody else this whole time. But he does not have this advantage over Mikio's AI control gear this time around. because it will read his movements. Sachio had an idea for Joe to train his footing to be stronger, and in turn making his punches way stronger also, which he did. And he's got a really strong punch now, I guess.
Yeah, he was like dragging a huge tractor tire, and I was like, "Oh, it's Rocky IV again."
Yeah, and like the kids are sitting on it. So yeah. But just before the match, as Joe's walking to the ring, there's that little hallway you go through. They come across Mikio waiting for them. He says they will not even make it into the ring and reveals he knows that their ID is fake and that he was throwing matches in the underground. He threatens to release this information if he steps into the ring. Joe tries to hit him, but then Nambu punches Joe in the gut and knocks him out. And Mikio just ends up winning the match because, Joe never showed up. He also looks at his sister and says to himself he will be taking everything back.
Him posing in that hallway, he looked like a yummy piece of ass. He's wearing that cut off outfit, with his whole stomach and his pecs showing. He's got those glasses on. I'm like, damn. Oh, nice looking boy.
He's kind of top heavy. His chest is really big and his legs are a little smaller.
Yeah, in some of the pictures,
in
some of the pictures he is a little bit too top heavy. But when they make him all slim looking from the side and that outfit, look good in that. But
so. One of my favorite scenes, not really this episode, was Joe is chained to the couch in his apartment, and he goes, we're introduced to the scene, we just see a brown stream of liquid, and I'm like, is this piss? And then it zooms out and it's definitely Joe's piss. It's just a close-up as his brown piss, and I was like, okay.
Well, I think it's trying to tell you that I think he's trying to tell you he's been punched a lot, and so he's got blood coming out of him.
Oh yeah, it's probably, you're right, it's blood.
So yeah, Mikio's whole deal is that he wants to take back control of the company from his sister, and it seemed to me like he had support of at least a few people on the board of directors of the company as well. Some of the guys were kind of smirking to Shirato's right, or Yukiko is her name. And that's fine and all. I just don't know if I want them to focus on this weird corporate power struggle as much as the rich versus poor society dynamic in the show, which I'm kind of more interested in. But
don't worry,
this is cool
it's short-lived. It's just a little gimmick.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. All right, so episode 8, Deadline of the Dream. So once Fujimaki determines that Nambu isn't going to give up on Joe, Fujimaki's the loan shark guy, or the mafia guy, basically.
Yeah.
Once he determines Nambu's not giving up, he helps them out a bit by giving them information that Mikio was basically bluffing. He doesn't actually have any hard evidence that Joe was really faking his ID. He just likely heard some half-truths from some poor guys wanting to make a quick buck from the underground who sold Joe out, basically. And so, since Mikio confronted Joe alone, they figure that he must have had some other reason for wanting him out of the tournament, that he didn't want to be made public either. So Fujimaki warns Nambu that this is their last chance, though, and that if they don't pay back this debt, it's going to be on Sachio's head, too, because Sachio was, talking some shit.
He's a little hard-ass.
Yeah.
I actually think the mafia guy was a little bit impressed.
He was. He, kind of smiles at him. I was like, I like this kid. Fujimaki tracks down Mikio's former gear engineer, who's named Mizuhara Koichi, and this guy kind of fell from grace because he started selling off some of the gear parts for his own gain, and now he just frequents underground Megalonia matches. And so they pick him up, the Fujimaki's guys, and they learn from him that there was a power struggle basically going inside the Serato company between Yukiko and Mikio, who were developing 2 different prototypes for the next gen gear. And so Yukiko had developed the one that ended up being integrated into Yuri's body, whereas Mikio created this AI-controlled mounted gear that was also very powerful. And it turned the company went with Yukiko's idea. So Mikio kind of wants to prove that the AI-controlled mounted gear is stronger. So most importantly, Mizuhara lets it slip that Mikio's AI gear operates by sensing movements in its opponent's gear, which Joe doesn't have. So he's the perfect opponent to take down Mikio because his gear can't sense him because it's just his natural body. And so Sachio thinks this might mean that Mikio is afraid to fight him, but later Joe kind of corrects Sachio, saying that I looked into Mikio's eyes and it wasn't a look of fear, but just he didn't even consider me to be part of the picture. And he said he'd gotten like the same look from Yukiko's eyes before. Speaking of Yukiko, Nambu goes to her office to try to persuade her to set a rematch. At first, she's resistant because she has no reason to trust the guys who ran away from the ring. But Nambu has a data card that contains the info that Mikio fixed the fight and was going to reveal Joe's sordid past. And Nambu could release that to the public. All right, Nambu tells Yukiko to trust Joe because he's the genuine article in the ring, which echoes words that Yuri said to her earlier. It doesn't work, though. Like, Yukiko decides to continue with the ceremony and locks Nambu in the room so he can't ruin her plans.
I thought Nambu had a pretty good speech, though.
He did.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Okay, but in the real world, the part where he bursts in and like, are we at that part yet?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, the part where he bursts in at the end and like demands to fight him again, that would be like the story of how Joe ended up in jail. Like, to me, it was kind of bullshit that they're like, well, we're just going to give him another chance because he burst in at this public event. Like, that's dumb.
Well, you have to think though, it is like a PR nightmare for them because like there's this whole movement of people who love Joe and
well, but
like
wouldn't they be
believe
pissed
in
at him at this point? So like, really, they wouldn't be.
Yes.
Yeah.
And not to mention, ratings would be through the fucking roof, so it's
Well,
like
that's true.
in their favor.
Yeah, no, but yeah, I kind of agree with Kat that like I think the show dropped the ball a little bit in that they didn't show like the public's reaction to Joe forfeiting the last fight.
Yeah.
Not a lot. Like,
whether
we did
it was
a
like
little
disbelief or what,
but
you know?
not enough. Yeah.
Not enough. Like, yeah, we didn't get like a really good sense of that. So like I felt like we didn't get the full picture here. So yeah, when all this is going on, like Joe gets tired of waiting around, jumps on a motorcycle, and like the fucking music starts booming, like synths, and like he gets to the stadium just as Yukiko is about to give Mikio like the 4th ticket to Megalonia. And yeah, like Kat says, he busts in and yells like, "Not yet, let's settle this in the ring." And Mikio tells Joe, like, you have to be the genuine article to fight in the ring. And this kind of ticks Yukiko off because she knows her brother's not the genuine article. And she decides, like, you're right. And that means, like, the genuine article clearly is not just a boxer who won by default. So, yeah, we're going to do this. We're going to set this
No
rematch.
matter how yummy he may be, he still won by default.
Yeah, and nobody not once questions Joe as why he forfeited the match.
Yeah.
Or where the fuck he was. That's a little weird.
Also, my problem with this entire episode was it was just basically a complete waste of time. They could have cut out the ending of episode 7, just not had episode 8 at all, and just gone on with the fight, and it wouldn't have been any different. We wouldn't have missed this episode, I feel like. Like, it's a complete waste of time. And like the show is running low on episodes. Like we're looking at our watch a little here. Like, hello, how are you going to get through this whole fucking thing in time? And they're sitting here wasting an entire episode on basically plot fat. Like, I don't understand why they did that.
I think they were just trying to build up some drama and tension.
Well, it didn't work.
Yeah.
So okay, the show has 13 episodes. I just looked this up.
Still, I mean,
does it have 13, not 12? Well, that's
Yeah,
good.
it's 13.
Okay.
I mean,
Yeah,
that
it's
is
gonna
good.
be
he has to
but
fight
like,
Mikio, and then he has to fight one of like Glenn Burrows or the other guy.
Okay, so I've seen the next episode. This is their match, and they come to their conclusion. So they have 10, 11, 12, and 13 to finish the show out. 4 episodes.
That should be enough,
It just wasn't a good arc. It felt like a waste of time. Like, even if they do get it done, it felt like they could have put something else in here that was better than what they did with this episode.
Saving grace of this arc is that Yukiko Shirato is super hot.
True.
Yeah.
So I enjoyed just like seeing her.
I'm right there with you, man.
I
Like,
mean, they
I kind
are
of agree a
brother
little
and
bit with
sister. So, I mean, they're both
They
pretty fine.
got the good genes inside them.
Yeah.
I definitely do. I still think like it was like painfully obvious watching Megalo Box this week though that like this show like at this point is such a tier above like almost everything else this season.
Yeah, even
like,
if
it was
it has
kind
a
of like that
couple
from
issues.
the beginning, but now it's like more clear than ever to me.
It does have
Yeah.
a couple little issues where like you can pick at it, but it still is a damn good anime. I mean,
It's got no competition this season, really.
yeah.
In my opinion, yeah.
But,
Yeah.
okay.
At this point, like it's just clear. Yeah.
I know we're ignoring like the impossibilities of the whole gear system, but this whole episode, I kept thinking about, have you ever wondered about why they're having a tournament to promote, like, basically the sports equipment, which is the gear, right? Like, that's all it is sports equipment. It would be like if the Super Bowl was made to sell football helmets. Like, that would never happen.
Well, it is kind of made to sell, like, jerseys and, like, guacamole. I don't know. But yeah, no, it's kind of true. Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah.
All right, should we move on?
Yes. So, Love is Hard for Otaku. Are you ready for my shortest synopsis ever?
Oh,
I am so ready.
Okay.
Kat, there's nothing to talk about this episode. So, online gaming and their respective nights. Okay, the 4-play and online MMO. Taro is a swordsman, Narumi is a cute elf assassin, Hanako is a sexy sorceress, and Hirotaka is a maxed out level bowman. Naoya logs in first on Hirotaka's character and gets wrecked by like a rare boss event, but Hirotaka shows up and wrecks the dragon, saving everybody. Also, very sexy shot of Hanako in the bathtub soaking before she logs in.
Yeah,
just in
nice.
the show. She's hot as fuck, though. By the way.
By the way, about this like first part, why is Hirotaka max level in this game? Because he's like, I haven't played this game for a super long time. I don't even really like it. But then he's like max level and he takes this dragon down with like one shot.
I think they're trying to say like that he's just a genius at any game he plays. So like, of course he is. I don't know. It's
I guess
they
I just
spent
feel like
way too much
MMOs
time.
are more about like grinding than your skill.
Yeah,
you
they
know?
spent
Like, it's
way
more about,
too
like,
much time on that video game part. Like they did not need to spend that much time on that. I will admit.
Yeah. So Hirotaka and Toro go out to eat with two juniors, and the juniors just keep talking about how cute Narumi is or how hot Hanako is, not knowing their boyfriends are right in front of them. This is just the whole gimmick of the joke.
Well, but it's weird because, like, is this a thing in Japan where you don't say if you're dating someone you work with? Because, like,
this is exactly how I felt too. Like,
yeah, because, like, in America, if this is happening, like, you wouldn't be like super open about it. But if like you're out to dinner with a bunch of your coworkers and they're doing that, you would probably say like, "Hey, I'm dating that person." You know?
Because otherwise you're like letting them hang themselves with their own rope. It's so mean.
I know.
Like I know that what they're doing is like maybe like overstepping bounds, but like guys are gonna talk about like their coworkers like when they're having a beer and like I don't know, like it's kind of shitty that he didn't just like immediately say something.
Are so minor until finally at the very end, Taru has had enough and he just advises him to go after girls who don't have boyfriends.
That's all he says.
That's it. It's just like Jesus.
But what about that other part, Leah?
Oh yeah, the other part.
Narumi's
Narumi
conversation.
and Hanako go out to eat also and find out they have very different opinions on why they like anime. They then get on the topic of yaoi and they both ship their boyfriends, but at different positions in pitching and catching. And just oh god, I know Kat has an opinion on this. So I'm
so I thought this was
handing
interesting
the reins to you
because I know girls like in the anime community who also do this. I've never been one to ship my boyfriend with other guys, but like there are definitely a lot of fujoshi who do this. Like it reminded me a lot of the different My Hero Academia ships where like if you have a friend who ships people differently, like one character on top versus another, like fighting may ensue and often does. Like that is a thing.
Oh my god.
Where you'll
I was
be
gonna
like
ask Leo like oh sorry, Kat, you finish first.
where you'll be like Deku and Bakugo, it'll be like who's on top, and then one person will be like Deku's on top, the other person will be like Bakugo's on top, and like fighting will ensue.
God.
So my question for Leo was like, if your girlfriend was like imagining you as a bottom in a yaoi relationship, how would you feel about that?
Just being in a yaoi relationship I would be very awkward, and just Kat talking about this now, I'm just like makes me more afraid of like other geek anime girls now. I'm like, man, I don't know if I'd want to date one at this point, but I guess there's like no harm in it. So,
well, okay,
no
but
real
being
harm.
imagined as the bottom is a compliment. Like if you had a girlfriend who was imagining you as the bottom, because like that really is, it is true what they say. Like the bottom is the more attractive character to the person who is imagining that ship. The bottom is the one the girl really wants to fuck. The top is just like the cherry.
Okay, I think I would actually be slightly like morbidly interested. Like I would be like, you would ship me with that guy? Really? I'd be slightly curious. What's your reasoning behind this? I don't know.
The other thing I was laughing about is there's like a throwaway line where like Hanako like says she'll read like BL manga right next to Taro, and Taro's kind of like annoyed by this.
Yes,
but like he's sitting there just reading fucking Kirino Mosaic, which is like a lolly Yuri manga, and he's complaining about her BL, and I'm like, dude, get over yourself.
I mean, they're just reading porn together. It's fine. Like, I was like, oh my god, wouldn't that be amazing to basically read porn with your boyfriend? That'd be awesome.
It'd be pretty fun.
Yeah, it'd be cool.
Oh man.
That's Bcom. I'm gonna ask you the same question. What would you think about your girlfriend's shipping you with in yaoi relationships?
Well, yeah, I think I would be like, yeah, when I was thinking about this, I was like, yeah, I think I'd be kind of uncomfortable with that. Like, especially depending on who the guy is. I would probably like politely ask, like, could you like just keep it to other guys? Like, when you imagine me, just imagine me with you, okay?
No, I refuse to do that.
I mean, I don't know. I guess I could get over it eventually. I don't know. As long as I can have some Yuri fantasies of her. Oh, there we go. If that's an equal trade, then it's okay.
Equal trade.
Yeah.
All right.
Ooh, Kat, you got this.
All right. Yeah. Episode 8. Weakness is thunder and years of insecurity, which is a dumb name for an episode. Let's be honest. So the episode starts with it being really stormy outside, and there's like a lot of thunder. Apparently, Hirotaka is afraid of the thunder, and he drops his drink at one point, like, because he's so fucking scared. And Narumi and he are talking, and she doesn't even notice. Like, she's such a, I don't know, I get irritated at her, because sometimes she just doesn't pay attention to how he's feeling, like, at all.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. So he says it's because when it storms, you sometimes lose your save game, but we all know that's probably bullshit.
No, I
well,
definitely
but that's
have a
not
story
why
too
you would be
losing
traumatized
save
of the
data.
thunder. Like, yes, that does happen, but like that's not why you would be traumatized.
You're traumatized because you just lost hours upon hours of fucking save data. Has it ever happened to you? It's like instant devastation. You just stare at the screen at a corrupted save file. There's this.
It is pretty bad when that happens.
Back in the days where we had memory cards. I was playing GameCube, and there's it was like a scary game. It was actually kind of neat, and you had an insanity meter. And once it got really low, you would do things like when you'd go into a room, like your head would suddenly fall off or something. But it had this ingenious one where your sanity got really low, and you went through a doorway, and it had like an auto saving system, and it said saving, file has become corrupted. And I fucking almost shit myself and almost pulled the memory card out of the GameCube. It was just the insanity feature. I was like, oh my god, that's to this day like one of the most scariest things I've ever seen in a video game.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
I mean, I do have an idea of it, because like one time we had a corrupted podcast file and had to redo the whole podcast.
Yeah.
So maybe it's kind of like that.
Okay, the game's called Eternal Darkness, and it's from 2002.
Oh yeah, I remember that game.
It had like 3 different endings, and I did them all. So
I remember one time at work when I deleted a 40-page legal brief. That was not great.
Shit yourself.
Yeah. Oh god.
Never mind. I think that game had 4 endings. The 4th one was a secret.
Well, anyway,
anyways, I played the game a lot.
So later in the day, Hirotaka reaches under his desk for something he dropped, and when it thunders really loud, he hits his head when he jumps. So he says he's going for a SAN break, which I don't really know what he means. Does he mean like sanity break? I don't fucking know.
Yeah, I think that meant sanity break. Yeah, I'm pretty sure, but yeah.
All he does is go outside and smoke, basically. And then Narumi comes outside, and instead of talking to him, she goes to the next room, and they text back and forth with the wall between them. And I'm like, what the fuck is this? Like, go outside and talk to the bitch. Like, what are you doing? Like, I don't know.
Because I think they're both in like opposite bathrooms, right? And I think they're just trying to keep up the pretense that they're just like in the bathroom on break.
He's in a smoke room.
No, yeah,
he's
smoking.
Okay, I don't know.
Yeah,
I thought they were in the bathroom.
Yeah.
No. So she asks him if he's all right, and he says he is. And like then he has this flash of Narumi coming over once when they were kids, and he was sick, like, and it was raining outside, and it's cute and everything. And then he thinks like, well, at least I have this one good memory of storms. And then throughout the episode,
she like tackles him through the door. It's kind of cute.
Yeah, it is cute. I mean, throughout this episode, you see Hirotaka worrying a lot because Narumi and him are not really progressing as a couple, which is nice. It's a nice plot point because in real life, like that's what we, the audience, are thinking. We're like, why are you not progressing? What's happening? So it's nice.
That's been my sole complaint the whole fucking time.
Yeah. So it's nice that they're actually like addressing this. So you get several flashbacks at this point. There's this one where he sees Narumi out with her boyfriend at the time when they are in high school, and he's really upset by it, and he notices that the boyfriend has like several piercings in his ear, and he goes home and like gets this like piercing gun and pierces his ear and kind of like this fuck, like it hurt me so much, I'm gonna do this thing that also hurts, like dramatic like teenage thing, you know. And but it's like really relatable, and you see like he's liked her for a long time, and while she obviously really values him and their friendship and likes him a lot too, it's unclear if she really values him in a romantic way the way that he does, you know.
Right.
And after eating out with Hanako and Kabakura, where Hanako is like playfully flirting with Narumi, at one point Hirotaka asked Narumi if she would be jealous if he flirted with other girls, and she seems to like kind of shrug it off and laugh like it was nothing, and like he would never do that. And it just really worries him even more because like he wants to see her be a little jealous, and like he feels like she's not even worried.
So yeah, there was a thing he did here. So like in between like this and the next thing, like he goes home and he's like playing like Monster Hunter on his couch or whatever, right? Mm-hmm. And like he's really frustrated, right? Because like he sort of thinks about that, and then he thinks about some like other kind of like passive aggressive things that Narumi has said to him about like how she doesn't take their relationship very seriously. And like he has this pillow on him next to the couch, and like to show his frustration, he just like lightly chops this pillow.
Yeah.
Like as if he was gonna like chop her on the head. And like I didn't really like this because like I want to see some like actual frustration from this guy. Like he's so damn stoic all the time that it's hard for me to get invested.
He's the kind of guy who like he does feel a lot of frustration, like as you see in that scene with him piercing his ear, but like he keeps it in. Yeah. Like there are people like that. That's just like a way that he is. I don't know. As a side note, when Kabakura gets angry in that thing where like she like Haru is flirting with Narumi, and like Kabakura gets all angry and like furious and is he's so adorable when he gets really angry like that. Like,
well, also Hanako is so fucking adorable when she's like drunk and teasing him too. Oh, like I love both of them. They're I mean like I had problems with him earlier in the show, but like at this point in the show, like I'm kind of watching it for them more than I am for like Narumi and Hirotaka.
In my personal opinion, they are doomed to fail as a couple, because like I think in the end he will never value Haruko as much as she values him in the relationship, and eventually she will get tired because like he will occasionally like put in effort, right, and do a big gesture, but like then he'll die off for a while, right, and like eventually she's gonna get tired of it, probably years and years down the line when they're married and they're gonna like leave, like they're gonna break up. Like I that's my opinion on where their relationship is doomed to.
I can see that. Yeah.
But I don't know. Okay, so Hirotaka is worried because he isn't the type of guy that Narumi usually dates. And he knows that. Like, he knows the type of guy that she usually dates because he's known her forever. He's seen all of her boyfriends. He asked Kabakura at one point what he and Hanako are like alone because he's worried that like he and Narumi are not acting like a real couple. And you see Hanako and Kabakura kind of like freeze and be quiet because they realize like, oh, this is a serious issue, you know?
Kind of.
Yeah, at the end of the episode, Hirotaka suggests going to a theme park on a date with Narumi instead of their usual nerdy type dates that they've been going on, because he knows that that's what she usually does with other guys that she's dating. And but Hirotaka is really considerate of Narumi and like thinks of her and thinks of like what is usual for her and what she wants a lot, just like Hanako does with Kabakura. And like that's normal. Like you'll always have in any relationship, you'll have the person who puts in more effort, and that's fine. It's just good to keep it balanced so it doesn't become too one-sided, you know?
Right.
Yeah. So yeah, that's the end of this episode.
There was one cute little scene. It's like Narumi is talking to Neue, Hirotaka's brother. And it's like, so she's like sitting down at this like cafe. She's like drinking a drink at his like Starbucks shop that he works at. And so she's like, basically he's like, I went out on like a date or something, or like, he was like, I couldn't put my contacts in because they were puffy because I cried so much last night. And she was like, who the fuck made you cry? And he's like, no, it's just a movie. And then so as she's sitting down, and then like a split second later in the next frame, she's like standing up with her hand on his shoulder asking like, was it a date then? And then like when he goes to respond, like a millisecond later, she's like sitting down again. Like it was so weird. It was just like she was like down and then up and then down, and like no time at all. I was like, what? Like usually I would think this is like an issue or something, but it kind of worked for me comedically. I was just laughing at it. It was pretty funny. Like,
there's this awful shot at 2:12. Did you see that?
I think I went back for this. Yes.
It's just like this. The other people sitting at the tables are just like a fucking cardboard cutout with like no fucking faces. I was like, what?
Yeah. I don't want to keep ragging on it, but like, visually this show is not impressive. Like,
no. I am glad that this show recovered from the last episode and is actually going back to the romance stuff. That's why I'm watching it. But I'm also amused by Narumi hiding her otaku side from her past boyfriends. And Kat, didn't you say this is what you do?
Well, pretty much, that's what I do. Because, like, guys, like, normal guys don't want to date someone who's, like, really into, like, anime and is really nerdy. Like, it's just not what they want to do. So that's why I prefer dating people who are also into anime, because then you don't have to be so like closeted.
You don't have to hide shit.
Yeah. So.
Yeah.
All right, cool. Leo, take it away with the next thing.
Okay, Hinamatsuri, episode 7. Anzu is a greeter now. I love Anzu so much. She's awesome. Anzu begins working at the diner, and the gags are her misunderstandings and teachings when she was like homeless and stuff. The prices of the food surprises her and goes completely like catatonic when she sees how much money is in the register. She also tries to like wash and reuse the chopsticks, but is told to throw them away. It ends with like Anzu giggling and laughing in her room because she is so happy she has her own place and she could turn the lights on and off freely. And like I think the couple like even like hears that and they're like almost tearing up again. Like they're like, oh my god, she's so precious.
So like then literally my only problem with this entire show comes because like we have this brief scene that you see in so many fucking anime.
You see nothing.
Every single fucking anime has scenes where characters are in the bath. Like non-sexily too, because that's what happens in Japan. People fucking take baths, okay? Like this. Yeah, well,
it was like a joke too, because it's like, why are you taking a shower with cold water? Her like foster mom is like, well, and she's like, well, I like only took showers in the park before, and she was like, please use the warm water.
It's just one of those gags where she's like, saving energy and stuff like that.
I will just say I just did not like the way the camera like pans all the way up from the bottom up her entire body. I was
they pan up like on the shoulders. It's not like they show you anything.
But the only reason they don't show you anything is her hair is covering her breasts. They show you her whole frontal body.
They don't show her anything like that though. Like you don't see anything inappropriate at all. Like you don't even see cleavage. You don't see anything like that.
Oh yeah, that's fair. Okay, it is. I've seen worse. I will say that. It's just
Japan
like,
is a very. Yeah. They have a bath culture. It's just so big. I think that's what our big deal is. We're just not used to this. Like they have like the communal bathhouses. So like at some point you've probably seen your entire community naked, at least on your gender size. So I mean, that's why to them like a scene like this is just like nothing to think about. But us as Americans are like, what the fuck? Like I definitely thought less of the Hanako scene in the last episode of
Wotakoi because she is like older and of age. But I definitely thought of this as like, oh, that's a little girl. Like, can we not? I don't know. I'm just like so suspect
Hanako
of
was
anime.
just like the quick
you know,
fan service shot. And I'm totally cool with that. It was fucking 3 seconds, whatever.
right?
Well,
okay.
but it's
Yeah,
not
anyway,
even
we
really.
move on.
Can you really call it fan service? Because like they don't even show anything. I don't know. But yeah, let's move on.
I think it's fan service for like lolicons, but like yeah. Anyway,
Okay, so anyways, Hina finally gets scolded for sleeping in class, and she's also disappointed with like the amount of food they get at lunch. So she decides to run for student council president to obtain power and change things.
she calls like the lunch guy like a Scrooge or something.
Yeah.
It's good.
So she has to give a speech though, and doesn't know what to say. She asks Nita about it, and he goes on to tell his like Yakuza boss, who thinks of himself as like basically a doting grandfather to Hina. This isn't completely spelled out now, but reading the manga, this is what he does. This is his gimmick, and it's fucking hilarious. He ends up calling the company's business lawyer and has him write a speech for her. It's a little overkill, man.
I loved it. That was so good.
The speech is great, of course, but she keeps saying weird stuff like where it would be in quotations, where it's like, take a deep breath when they should be acting it, you know, and out
Raise
instead.
arm here.
That was good. Where she's like, raise arm here or whatever, and she does. Like she just reads it.
I was dying. I literally was like dying laughing at this part because I think when I was growing up, I had like anxiety of public speaking. So, but like seeing somebody like fuck up this badly in a public speech, like just killed me for some reason. It was so good.
Yeah, so Hina's only like a first year or something, so she can't actually become president, but she gets secretary, and she just never shows up to any of her student council meetings. So guess who gets roped into taking Hina's place in the student council?
Well,
Hitome.
of course it's Hitome.
And she does like such a good job. They're like, fucking stay. You're our new secretary. We don't care. You're good.
They like wave their arms at her and they're like, welcome, welcome, welcome. It's like,
I think that's like a traditional like thing that they do when they welcome people.
It was funny.
Yeah.
Oh man.
No, okay, I was bored with this episode because I wanted them to lean into the jokes more. Like, okay, they had the whole scene where like they had these Yakuza wanting to help Hina run for class president. I wanted them to like really lean into this and like have like Yakuza like following Hina around, like intimidating these kids into voting for her, like doing Yakuza things. Like, you promised me Yakuza shit, Leo, with this anime.
I kind of expected them to like strong arm her principal or something.
Yeah,
for sure. But,
like I wanted there to be intimidation, like sneering Yakuza in sunglasses, and I did not get any of that, Leo.
No, all the Yakuza you get from this show is basically fighting other Yakuza. That's what it boils down to. It's not really that. Sorry to disappoint, but hey, I think a lot of people are still finding the show funny. But the
it's still funny. It's just not like what I wanted sometimes. But.
Yeah, so the show rounds out with Nita has been trying to get Otaku, whatever, to go on a date with him for a while, and she just like won't. He tells Hina this, and like she ends up asking Hitome to help in the matter since she wants Otaku as her mother, and that's kind of like her thing. She wants a mom figure now, and that's what gets like Hina completely on board. Hitome on board. Where the fuck do I? Yeah, sorry, Hitome on board. So they end up finally going to Otaku, and they finally get her to agree after a pretty funny discussion. When Hina tells Nita he's so happy he picks her up and starts swinging her around in circles, and then cracks her fucking leg into a wall and breaks it.
Literally breaks a leg.
Yeah.
It like they do the outside shot, and she's just like, it's so hilarious. Oh man, so they're at the hospital and he feels really bad and doesn't want to leave her there to go on his date, but Hina's like, you need to go anyways because she really wants a mom, and he ends up going on the date, but in the end, like Otaku tells him in the end she doesn't want to date a single divorced dad because like the whole time all he did was talk about Hina. And she didn't want to come in between the two.
Well, okay, to be fair, it is hard to date people who have kids. It's just more difficult. Like, that's for sure a thing. Like, I don't know. But yeah, it was funny.
Yeah.
There's a couple jokes I really like this episode. In one scene early on, like Hitome is joking to her like, classmate Sayo, like, you should run for student council. You have glasses and everything. It's just so true. Like, the student council president always has glasses in anime. It's like such a trope. And then there was like these 2 episodes, I noticed these like shirt gags that like Hina is always wearing a shirt that just has like a word on it. And at like the end of this episode, she's wearing one that just says like harakiri, which is just like ritual suicide. And just like, that's the kind of dark humor I really like for like just this little girl to be wearing a shirt that says ritual suicide on it. Just really got to me. I was just laughing at that.
I didn't even notice that. See, this is why I like having Bcom on the podcast with me. To point out the
some
shit
random shit.
The
next episode, the shirts are very noticeable, though. At the end, I'll talk about those.
Yeah, it's very noticeable in the manga, too. They keep up with it.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know where she gets all these shirts. It's hilarious. All right, Kat, you got the next episode.
All right, episode 8. And it's the same old Hina. It's funny because every time it has like Hina's name in the title of one of these episodes, I just think Hina now because of the other fucking anime.
Golden Kamuy.
Yeah.
Oh, God. Awesome. Kinky Kamuy. Sorry, my bad.
Anyway, so the episode starts with Hina leaving a note for Nita saying she has to go home because otherwise she will be killed. We learn that there's this like black-haired bitch in town now who's been sent to like observe Hina or something and see if they can take her back to the organization or if she's still dangerous. So
her name is Ikaruga K.
Oh, really? Because I think I just call her like the black-haired bitch. This is synopsis.
Okay.
What's her name? What's her name?
Ikaruga?
Ikaruga.
Or K, I guess, yeah.
Okay. So the first thing she says is like, well, surprisingly, the town is still intact. And that just makes me think, like, did she expect Hina to, like, rip the whole town apart or something?
Yes,
I guess so.
She expects the absolute fucking worst from her.
Yeah. So we meet up with Ikaruga meets up with Anzu fairly quickly when she goes to eat at the restaurant Anzu works at. And Anzu thinks that this means that she's also done for and will have to go back to the organization because, like, you know, she also used to be a part of it. But they learn that they have classified Anzu as KIA and they aren't interested in getting her back even if she is still alive. I guess because she's not as powerful as Hina. Although that seems kind of bullshit though. Like, even if she's not as powerful, I feel like they still would want her back. Like, that doesn't make much sense to me. Anzu hears about her plan to observe Hina, and apparently the organization considers Hina too powerful to kill, so they want to observe her a little and recover her if possible, but then like leave her alone if it's not possible. They have this whole test for Ikaruga to fill out that Anzu helps her with. Honestly though, like, there's some of this stuff where I don't know, like, would she agree to play rock, paper, scissors? Does she listen to grown-ups? Okay, and then they have a bunch of, like, basic knowledge questions, like logic questions, and you know Hina, there's no way Hina can answer those, because she's dumb as fuck. Like, I mean, Hina might be better, but, like, she's still an idiot. I don't know.
Right.
So we learn that at some point the organization lost control of Hina during a mission, and she went berserk, and then she destroyed her collar that was like controlling her, and then destroyed the city that she was in. And they can't, like, the organization can't control her without the collar, so they can't control her anymore. The lady Ikaruga, her name is annoying. Ikaruga is absolutely shocked by how Hina is like behaving like a human being. Like, she stops at red lights and throws away trash, and every time she does something, she just like, oh my god. Like,
well, she's also like surprised that there's somebody powerful enough to control her because they broke her leg and shit like that. So
oh yeah, that's true.
That's hilarious.
You're like, and she didn't kill him.
Yeah.
And this makes me realize, like, I guess Hina has changed a little bit, even if she can still be a selfish bitch. And like, at least she doesn't do this shit anymore, apparently. And at one point, they buy a dog just to see if Hina will, like, help it. And I'm like, why would you do that? Like, that's first of all, do you know how expensive dogs are at a pet store? And second of all, what the fuck are you gonna do with the dog now? Now you're stuck with the dog.
I think part of the humor is their thought process.
Yeah,
yeah, for sure. It's ridiculous.
So then there's an apparent shift in the episode in the middle, which I was like, why are they putting this gag part in the middle? It was weird. And Mommy sees Hina take out the trash with her psychic powers. And Mommy spends forever worrying about what to do and finally confronts Hina about it, and Hina like admits to it. And Mommy like begs to be allowed to be Hina's disciple. And after a while, Mommy becomes convinced that she is learning psychic powers as well and gets kind of arrogant. And Hina has been pretending
Kind of.
A fuck ton arrogant, and that Hina has been pretending
She would
to
give those
let
guys from the Legend of Galactic Heroes a run for the money and arrogance.
You're not wrong. And Hina has been pretending to let Mommy thinks that she has psychic powers because she feels sorry for Mommy, and like she's tired of watching Mommy.
She just wants to
try.
fucking get out of training.
Well, no, and she's tired of watching Mommy like try to like psychically move things, because she just sits there forever like watching her like grit her teeth and try to move this dumb rock or something. So she's just like, oh look, you did it. Like
Yeah.
So Mommy eventually gets overly cocky and tries to show the whole class her powers and gets utterly humiliated. And then they have this thing where they're like, Mommy was never seen again for 2 weeks.
Oh my god, I love this part so
It's
much.
2 days.
Because like they cut from like Hina saying Mommy was never seen again, and it shows her mother like knocking on Mommy's bedroom door, and there's no answer. So I'm like, this is like a super dark like suicide joke. Because like then they immediately cut into the room and they show her she's okay, and then Hina finishes the sentences and says like she was never seen again for 2 more days.
Okay, days.
Yes.
I was like, was it
Yeah.
days or weeks? I don't remember. As a side note, at one point in this whole like gag, Mommy's mom makes this omelet for her at dinner. Did you see this? And it says
Yes.
Mommy love on it, like written in ketchup with like 3 exclamation points. What the fuck would you do if you came home for dinner and your mom had written this down for you, like Bcom love?
First I'd be like, Mom, why are you using like my internet nickname? And then second I'd be like, okay, thanks, Mom.
Well, but like it's fucking
delicious.
creepy. I'd be like, this is weird. Like my mom's on crack or something. I need to leave. Like I don't know.
Yeah, it's kind of disturbing in a way, but like
Yeah.
it's just like this. It's just another funny little random gag, really, is all it is. So.
I guess. After that weird gag, we go back to is Ikura or whatever the fuck her name is. Ikaruga. You have a fucking terrible name. I don't know. Sorry to anyone whose name is Ikaruga. She realized.
Sorry to all the Ikarugas out there.
Yeah, exactly. She realizes that Hina doesn't know that her collar is gone, and so she uses the threat of the collar that like Hina thinks she still has it on to get her to promise to leave, which that's just like fucking Hina to not even realize that she doesn't have it on anymore.
Right.
Like,
Right. Yeah.
It's obvious that Hina has really started to love Nita, and she goes through a lot of stress trying to figure out how to tell him that she has to leave. And when Hina is stressed, we find out apparently she spins in the air. She does that a fuck ton this episode.
Levitates and starts spinning in a circle.
Because she spins so much.
So she finally tells Nita what's going on, and he takes her out to eat like one last time before leaving Hina to go to that lady. Oh, but then Hina no longer has the weird ball thing, so then she can't go back like with that lady.
Because Nita got fucking pissed at it and threw it in the trash.
Yeah, which that's such a BS reason, by the way. Like so contrived. Like there's certainly a way that they could get her back without that dumbass ball thing.
You need to stop taking this show so seriously.
Oh, yeah. Well, I did think like, well, she should have brought like an extra ball with her just in case, you know? Like,
yeah, like that's
what I
such bull.
thought.
That is a plot device. But whatever. So then Nita, she comes back like all excited. She's gonna tell Nita like I can stay, and Nita is throwing a party now that he's alone. Like, oh yay, I'm free, and like she walks in on it. And he went all out with this party. Like he's wearing like one of those hats and everything. I'm like, dude, you went too far.
You got like a cake, glitter. Oh man,
It's fantastic. It's just fantastic.
So a couple little things I noticed. Like at one point, Hina goes to a restaurant called JoJo Thins, and I was like, I want to just believe that Jonathan Joestar just owns this restaurant. JoJo's Bizarre Adventure.
That'd be awesome.
Okay, and then the shirt. Like, so when Hina is trying to say like goodbye to Nita, but she can't at the end of this episode. First, she's wearing a shirt that says "bye bye" on it. she kind of just like keeps like motioning to him to like look at it, kind of, and then like later she switches to a different shirt that says "sayonara," and I'm just laughing so hard at this.
See, I did not notice any of these fucking shirts. This is why we need.
It's just
Bcom.
there. It's like an extra little joke.
You gotta
it's
pay
so
attention
good.
then, Kat, because they're hilarious.
Cracks me up, this show. I'm loving this show. It's just so friggin' funny. The direction in the show is really good too, because it did so many good like comedic cuts to just like funny things, and like just like the comedic timing of the dialogue is really well done, and like it's hitting on all cylinders for me.
It is.
So.
It is good.
Oh, all right. Speaking of comedic show.
Oh boy.
Now.
Darling in the Franks, I'm going to issue a sarcasm warning for my review of episode 18, beginning now.
Great.
The title is When the Sakura Blooms.
I wonder what that could mean.
Starts off with Mitsuru and Kokoro waking up from a good fuck.
I mean, it's not even
be
sarcasm,
more right, though.
too, because like they do,
That's so true.
They did wake up from a good fuck.
And Mitsuru like looks outside and sees how beautiful the world is now that he's accepted Darling in the Franks' idea of societal norms, which is that men should be with women and reproduce to make babies in order to be happy in life. Anyway, moving on from that, Hiro for some reason is the one who suggests that they should have a wedding ceremony before they are forced to abandon like their base Misteltein. Since somebody remind me, did Hiro ever see like the wedding book or like the baby book? Like, where did he learn about weddings?
I think it was in
this.
the storybook of 02's.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's just
you're
an
right.
assumption.
That is how
it has
it
a
is.
wedding
It's
in that.
02's book. Okay, that makes sense. So Futoshi like hears about this, and of course he's crushed, but then he like immediately decides like, I'm gonna accept that I'm an undesirable fat ass, and I will officiate this wedding between my girlfriend, I wish, and Mitsuru, the guy who was gay until 2 weeks ago.
And doesn't he just insist on it too, though? I'm like, dude, don't insist so hard.
He's like, I want to be this guy.
Dude, you're already way more entertaining than this fucking episode was. I was bored out of my goddamn mind watching this episode.
I don't like that they're having Kokoro and Mitsuru get married when Hiro and 02 aren't. Like, it's almost implying, like, marriage is only if you can have babies, and since 02 can't have babies, there's no marriage for you.
We don't know that.
Like,
What? We don't. Do we know that she can't have babies?
She says
Yeah,
she can't have
they
babies.
do.
Like, she basically says like she's upset, or like she's jealous that like basically Kokoro can reproduce, or that the humans can reproduce, because she believes she can't.
And it's fucked up because there are clearly the more prominent couple.
yeah.
So one person who isn't happy about all this wedding stuff is Ikuno, and Ichigo goes to talk to her in her room and asks her like, hey, so why did you get so mad at the Nines, like in that other episode when they were talking about how like they should be genderless, and like people who have like gender are disgusting, and like she like slapped them basically. And Ikuno explains it wasn't for Mitsuru and Kokoro's sake that she got mad at all. And like when Ichigo starts like showing interest in her, like Ikuno like grabs her, like removes her hair tie to like take her hair down, and then pushes Ichigo down on the bed and like tells her like, I wish that like we could do away with the Frank system. Like I wish it would go to hell. Like, and like how it like decides that only a boy and a girl can fly together. Like just confirming like Ikuno is a lesbian. Like she's interested in Ichigo.
Oh yeah. Any speculation is completely assured at this point.
Yeah.
So she also though doesn't want society to be completely without gender either, because then she doesn't feel like she could define who she really is in a society like that. Because like being a lesbian is who she truly is, and in a genderless society, like being a lesbian wouldn't matter anymore. Like, so she feels like she wouldn't identify as anything at that point, and that would be even worse. And like Ichigo wouldn't be the same person either without that. So after all that, she like it's kind of muddled. She confesses her love to Ichigo, and Ichigo asks like why, and Ikuno explains like, Ichigo, you like gave me my name when we were young, and I've only had eyes for you ever since then. And this is basically exactly the story of Hiro and Mitsuru. It's like exactly the same. Hiro gave Mitsuru his name, and then Mitsuru like had eyes for him and like wanted to pilot with him. So
Yeah.
Okay, so she tells her how jealous she is of the boys who get to be with her just because they're boys, and tells her she wants Ichigo all to herself. And as Ikuno starts like breaking down, Ichigo has this thought where she's like, oh, she's just like I used to be, which I didn't think quite added up, because Ichigo, yes, had like a crush on Hiro, but it wasn't like her entire life defined by
Well,
loving
I don't know. I
women.
mean, she really loved Hiro. I think it's pretty comparable.
It's kind of comparable, except for the fact that like her loving Hiro was not like problematic in this society, whereas like Ikuno loving Ichigo is kind of like.
Well, I mean, it is in the
considered
sense that he
wrong.
doesn't like her, and so they can't be together. Just like she doesn't
I
like.
suppose.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Ichigo then like hugs her, and like instantly Ikuno starts talking about how like it probably won't be easy for me to give up on you. And like, so this is what Ikuno's entire arc culminated in, just like this brief like 2-minute confession scene where she like basically instantly gives up.
Yeah,
And I was
basically
like,
she's
really?
a lesbian and she can't get her way.
Well, but
and
like,
that's just the
what
end.
are you gonna do if the other person doesn't like you? Especially as a lesbian, like you can't make
Yeah.
someone else like girls. Like
True.
That's true.
Yes.
I mean, it's just like I'm kind of disappointed that this is all this turned into after all this time. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean,
feel
I
like
get
other
your
people
point,
got better
though.
arcs.
Yeah.
But yeah, okay. But like, I agree with you. Like, yeah, I understand that Ikuno's coming to terms with like she's not going to change Ichigo. So she has to eventually just give up on it. So yeah, there's a brief mid-scene or a mid-episode scene where 02 briefly sees a vision of like all these pilots she has devoured in her times as a FranXX pilot, like coming for her. Like I think she's having a nightmare. Basically,
Yeah.
She says she drifts off, and Hiro snaps her out of it. And then this is followed by like this really cheesy, like sugary sweet scene where like Hiro and 02 like go into like this cherry blossom garden and like start like swinging around each other and talking about how full of warmth and happiness they are. And I was like, okay, guys, like this is a little bit too much.
I'll agree.
But yeah, they talked. Like, she's talking about how like we were the original ones who wanted to get married and all this stuff. And yeah, so it's kind of weird that like they're not getting married too. But it might be like Kat says, like, oh, if we can't reproduce, why would we get married? Kind of thing. So yeah, the actual wedding ceremony starts. And it's like they decorate and like they make like wedding rings and a wedding dress out of like curtains. And they don't really know how to do a wedding ceremony. They start like ringing bells and stuff like as soon as they start walking out. And it gets broken up because like the nines are sent by Papa with a bunch of troops who just like break up the wedding and like take away Mitsuru and Kokoro. And then like Hachi like is seeing this happen and like is really upset by it, even though he doesn't experience emotions anymore. And he goes to Nana, who has been like relapsing into emotions, and asks her like, is there something we could have done to help these kids? You can see that like he's kind of coming around. He understands that like something is wrong about this.
That they are upset. Like he's not upset at what's happening, but he is upset that it is causing them distress.
Yes. And he
it's
thinks that like
causing her
Nana might have been able to
distress.
help them, but
Yeah. So
we find out that the council is split over like when the ape people went to visit the Klaxosaur Princess, and some of them tried to like launch an assassination attempt. And like,
Are you calling them ape people?
so there's like ape, and then there's like the council, because it seems like they're split. Because ape seems to be like these people who came from elsewhere to Earth, right?
well, but
And
I
then
think
there's
that
like the
ape,
council.
I think the council is part of ape, though.
Or
'Cause
I
you
think
find
some
out
of them
next
are ape
episode
and some
that-
of them are human or
Well,
something.
okay, but you found out next episode that ape like runs the world now, and so I think that
Basically,
ape,
yes.
like the people on the council are part of ape.
Yeah. But like the ape people definitely say like that they're trying to free humans from the shells of their bodies, and they're telling this to the other members of the council. So it feels like those members are the humans.
Called them in the next episode just a new group of people. They just don't know the identities behind them.
I think they're aliens, like 100%.
Okay, they may be aliens. I mean, that's your theory, but
I don't know.
We'll get into that awful fucking lore dump once you finish this.
Kokoro and Mitsuru have their memories wiped, but then they're released right back into the squad of 13s who like immediately start talking about the wedding and all this shit. And it's like, if you're gonna wipe their squad's memories, you kind of have to wipe everybody's memories, because otherwise, like, they're just gonna remember again. And
but then they go into later that like they did a more complete memory wipe than they did with like Hero and 02. So maybe not. I don't know, because that was my thought at first too.
But here's the thing, Kat. Mitsuru and Kokoro done fucked.
I know.
She is totally pregnant.
Well, okay.
100%, I guarantee.
By anime logic, she probably is pregnant, because like by anime logic, it takes like one erection like near a girl's like vaginal area, and like, oh, she's pregnant. It's decided.
I would like to say, in this world where they have come to the point to where they can basically make humans immortal, that they fucking can't do a goddamn abortion. I mean, come on.
Well, they probably don't have birth control anymore, because like no one has to worry about it.
Maybe, who knows?
But yeah, I thought it was really weird how they handled like Ikuno's arc here, especially with like how Mitsuru had like the exact same backstory with Hiro, where it's like, oh, you gave me my name and I loved you, except now I'm getting married to this girl all of a sudden. It's I don't know. This show is saying a lot of strange things about gender and like reproduction that I think are kind of regressive and like old school. And yeah, it's definitely pissing a lot of people off in the anime community.
Cannot just make sense of it. I don't think they know what the fuck they're doing. And that's my problem with it.
I think this is Japan's like half crippled attempt to talk about issues of gender and sexuality in a progressive way, but they're just not as progressive as us, because their society, like in terms of social issues, is like 20 years behind the US is. So like, I give them a little bit of slack, right? Like, they obviously tried. Like, even if they're a little bit off the mark, and they could easily, they haven't fucked it up 100% yet, you have to admit. Like, they could easily step over the line and, like, fuck something up real bad. Like, but so far they haven't, which is good.
I'm still behind the theory that Abe and the government are behind this to try to get young people to understand they need to fucking fuck.
I mean, I told you in the last episode, I totally agree. It does seem kind of like propaganda, like have sex, like have babies.
Pretty much. Yeah. All right, Leo, give us the mother of all lore dumps.
All right, here we go.
Episode 19, motherfucking lore dump. No, it's called Humanity.
Or Inhumanity,
Jesus,
I think.
Inhumanity. My bad. This is like how forward I'm looking to this goddamn thing.
Uh-oh.
So, anyways, Dr. FranXX is kind of irritated because he wasn't informed of the memory altering to Kokoro and Mitsuri. So we immediately flashback to the year 2025 AD, and Dr. FranXX, young Dr. FranXX, is being hired by the group called APE for his work on cloning. APE is a group of scientists with no known origin or nationalities. The group created better mining and a new source of energy that propelled human civilization, and they also gained a lot of ground politically. Dr. FranXX, yes, this is just way a fucking lot. Dr. FranXX uses the new energy source, magma energy, to achieve immortality for humans at the cost of being able to reproduce. This led to a huge gap between the rich, who could afford immortality, and the poor, who couldn't. At one point, a law was passed to heavily tax childbirth just fucking because.
Well, no, because there was overpopulation, I guess.
Yeah, because they were.
I felt like it was more likely the rich trying to get rid of the poor. That's how I took that.
The rich need the poor. Like, that's kind of the way like society works, right? The rich need the poor. So I don't know if that's it. They need them to step on their backs and like keep their place. They're not going to get rid of them.
Anything you guys want to touch on that stupid resourceful paragraph?
Well, it's kind of dumb that like magma energy has the power to just like give humans immortality. Whatever. I'll roll with it.
It also allows them to create robots that they don't really understand that have to have multiple
The science is very
genders
vague, but like I don't really know how they could explain the science without like spending a shit ton of time on it.
It's like they don't exactly understand the magma and the Klaxosaurs that show up at the same time.
Okay.
They don't really understand how they work.
Also, I did get irritated at like how this organization just shows up and it's made up of all of these masked people and you can't see like what they look like under these cloaks and these masks and shit that they're wearing, and yet society's like, oh, this is fine, like we're not suspicious of these people
Or
at all,
who they
like,
are or where they come from. Like, nobody's fucking suspicious. This is bullshit.
Yeah, they're not like, well, what's going on here? They're just like, woo, we love you. You guys are the best. You don't have to ever take off your mask and show us what the fuck you are under that. Like,
oh god. So anyways, Dr. FranXX gets confessed to by his colleague, Sexy Karina, who wants to have a baby naturally with him and he either wants to really become immortal. Turns out desertification started to become a real problem, and that from the cities and stuff, and that's when they ended up developing the plantations. Then around the same time, the first Klaxosaur, which stands for Screaming Reptile, showed up and was only stopped after being hit with a couple of nuclear missiles. So let that sink in for a second. These Klaxosaurs have to be hit with multiple nuclear missiles, but yet a FranXX can take it out with a sword with a special magma tip.
Yeah.
Nuclear missiles are no match for the power of an orgasm.
Of two people fucking. They're no match for the power of sex. Don't you know? It's the most. Well, actually, that is the. If you think about it, that is the strongest force in the universe. Because like most of the things that human beings have done has been like, you know.
Hey, nuclear missiles can't create life. Sex can create life.
Oh, God. Anyways, the rate of appearances only increased from the Klaxosaurs after this. And Dr. FranXX finally gets his hands on a Klaxosaur's corpse and discovers that they possess the double X chromosome found in females. This also leads to his first FranXX as a anti-Klaxosaur weapon, and they discover that it requires the pilot to still possess their reproductive functions.
Okay, so hold on.
Me.
How do you design a robot and then only later figure out it needs like a reproductive human to use it? Like, what? How does that?
Well, I think it's because it's based on a Klaxosaur, right? Like, so he uses that.
And
I was like so confused by that part.
They're I think Klaxosaurs are half biological, half mechanical, and then possessing the double X chromosome has some weird way of feeding into the whole thing.
Did they mean that literally the Klaxosaurs have human DNA, or did they just mean that they have XX and XY chromosomes like humans do? Because I got confused because it's not really clear.
Well, no, XX and XY I believe still applies to other species.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, I don't know if they're saying...
we still share that one chromosome, yeah.
Yeah, like, I don't know if they're saying that Klaxosaurs are based off human beings and they have human DNA, or if they're just saying, like, oh, they have XX and XY chromosomes.
Yeah, we don't know where the Klaxosaurs come from yet, or how they just appeared shortly after the magma energy was discovered. But unfortunately, sexy Karina then dies brutally in a prototype by being smashed into a paste against the wall, much like Mosquito Girl did in One Punch Man.
Oh my god! No,
I had a
the
quick
thing
theory.
I thought when they did that, I was like, well, that death was convenient, huh?
No shit.
I had a quick theory about this Karina woman, and the only thing I don't know if this is going anywhere. I don't know if this is right, but like her eye color was very similar to the eye color of that older woman in Zorame's side episode that he spends with like the woman inside the like plantation.
Oh.
Like I thought that maybe this woman like in Plantation is like a clone that Dr. Frank made of this woman who died.
Wait, when Zorome was in what plantation?
So like, remember they all go to tour like the underground city one point, and Zorome gets lost.
I know the older lady who
the older lady, and she has like a husband who's in like a tube. And I was like, I wonder because like that older lady seemed to like want to have a son or a child. Like she was very attached to Zorome, and like in this episode the woman Karina talks about how she wants to have a child too. So it's like maybe there's some connection there, but I'm not sure. So anyway.
Okay. So this is also when he finally finds out they can only be piloted by male and female pairs that have also been injected with yellow blood cells to help, which we don't know what the fuck they are, but probably has something to do with Klaxosaurs. And then everything else pretty much just falls into place to where we are at now, currently in the show. Dr. FranXX, after creating the FranXX, sets his sights on creating a perfect being. Ape discovers that Klaxosaurs have a queen, and a squad with Dr. FranXX goes to meet her. The squad basically just gets wrecked, and the doctor is taken before the queen. She licks his hand and then bites off his other arm and warns him not to kill any more of her brethren. He did manage to get some of the queen's hair, and that's what he made 02 with.
So, am I correct in thinking that ever since this like weird queen bitch like bites off his hand, he has like a creepy boner for her for like the rest of his life, basically?
From the very beginning.
He's like, and then I always wanted to fuck her like for the rest of my life.
He had a boner beforehand, and then she bit his arm off, and his boner got harder.
Yeah, he was like, I'm still in love with her. Like, she's the most beautiful thing I've ever seen in my life. This little lolly monster girl.
But the gang also decides to ask Papa to give them back the other two's memories, but it is impossible. So they say. They also want to be set free when the battle is over, and Papa actually agrees. So
what,
see if he follows through on that.
What do they mean by being set free? Because like, where the fuck they gonna go? Like that was my thought.
Let them go into the city, become adults. They're not
gonna let them into the city. They said they're contaminated. Yeah. They're not gonna let them. Like, where are they gonna go? And then also, like, which battle are we talking about? Because I don't know. Like, they're not making that clear, really.
The final Klaxosaur, like the big giant hand thing.
But
probably.
So I don't know. It'll be interesting to see like where they end up living, because like it doesn't seem like there's anywhere for them to go.
Yeah, congratulations on processing that insane fucking lore dump. Good night.
Yeah,
this is something really interesting about this episode, and this I have to give credit to James Beckett from Anime News Network, and also some people on the Reddit thread for this, who pointed out that this episode is extremely similar to episode 21 of Neon Genesis Evangelion, where in that episode it is like a flashback episode to a scientist like learning about like the Ava project back in the day, and like it's so aesthetically similar to this show too, because like this one in the FranXX episode starts off with like it's the year like 2025, and like that Evangelion episode starts off like it's the year like 1997 or 2000 or something, and it keeps like jumping in time just like this episode does. And like it's all about like this scientist who is like kind of in love with like a woman, and then like the woman in Evangelion falls in love with Gendo Ikari, and then becomes like Shinji's mom later. Here it's different, like the woman dies, like, but like there's also like other weird like aesthetic similarities where like in the Evangelion episode they're like flying over these red seas, and in this episode like there's like the ape people are flying over like a tinted red sea, and I'm just holy like shit. Man, they really wanted to remake that Evangelion episode. Like holy shit, it's fun. Like seriously, go watch that episode if you've just seen this FranXX episode, and if you've seen Evangelion already. If you haven't seen Ava, by the way, go watch Ava. It's really good.
I've seen bits and pieces from Adult Swim.
It's been so long since I watched Ava that like I did not notice that at all. It's interesting.
Yeah, and it's one of the episodes like right near the end too, where it's like you're kind of like trying to get right to the end because it's so interesting at that point. But yeah, it's like another huge lore dump like right at the end of the series. But like, man, just watching Ava, I appreciate like the direction of that show so much. It's so interesting. It's like, God, like it's just amazing.
I feel like the lore could have been spread out more evenly rather than
agree.
just in this one episode. Like if they had done like I have it divided into what four or five paragraphs here. If they had just done one of those paragraphs in like episode 4, and then they did the other one in like 9, and then the third one in like 14 like,
or something.
I felt like that would have really been like something that really would have kept me bringing back to the show, because I really want to find out, because I want to know the background. I'm like, what's the hell's going on? And to just do it in one episode, I'm like,
I did like the lore though, because like I've been waiting for it, and I did like some of the stuff they explained. It was interesting. I know people have continued to shit on it and be like, it's not even cool, and I'm like, but it was interesting. Like, I don't know. Like there are definitely problems
interesting enough. Like
with
it was
this
fine.
show. It's not like the best show ever or anything, but it's also not like shitty. I don't know.
I'm glad that it is at
show.
least actually trying to explain some of this shit finally.
Yeah, I'm also happy about
absolutely.
it. I still have hope that it will come together and like do all of the little hints that they like, the gray hair hint and all of that, and it'll all come together
they
somehow.
talked about that. About Miku's gray hair. Like, do they age prematurely or what?
It'll be interesting. I still have faith that they'll pull it all together. We'll see.
All right. Well, that is it for this episode.
Thank God.
So
Leo,
hot.
shut your mouth. Goodness gracious.
Time to go watch E3 videos for the next 3 days. Whew, I'm so excited.
These two are so
We got
hyped
Microsoft
up
tomorrow.
on E3. I had to
Microsoft and
drag
Bethesda.
them out of watching that.
Drag us out
EA
of watching
ran
the EA conference, which was such a shit show.
Which went 20 minutes over. Yeah.
So, okay, thank you for listening. Remember again to like, follow, and subscribe to us on YouTube to get updates on new podcasts and videos. And of course, you can always follow us on Twitter at Nerdom and Other for updates on our podcast as well. Until then, we will see you next week.
Bye.
Peace out.
See you.